2024 Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation by Pastor Patrick Nagel with Redeemer Modesto. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn.
Would you join me in prayer? Now, Father, this evening we just want to start with gratitude. We have much to be thankful for tonight. We thank you for the privilege to gather here freely, to gather here safely. We thank you that we even have a relatively cool evening in July to gather tonight, and so thank you. We know this is a relatively tough time in our nation, and so we just pray that tonight your grace would abound. We pray for dignity to abound. We pray for kindness and love to abound. There is much to consider this evening. I thank you that this is a community where people show up, and we just pray for your stewardship and help and wisdom with our leadership this evening. As things are considered and approved, we just pray for grace and again for dignity. Lord, we thank you that we can trust you and that you are good. We just pray for that goodness to be spread this evening. And would there be joy tonight as we gather? We thank you and we pray in your name. Amen. 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 Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor, for those sentiments. Appreciate it, and appreciate you being here tonight. The next we have presentations, and our presentation is to declare July 2024 as Parks and Recreation Month in Stanislaus County. And conducting the presentation will be Tara Chumley, Director of Parks and Recreation for Stanislaus County.
Thank you. All right. Good evening. Chairman Graywall, Supervisors, CEO Hayes, Council Bowes. I'm Tara Chumley, Director of Parks and Recreation. And joining me at the staff table today is Julia Rona, our prior Marketing and Events Coordinator. Workforce Development stole her from me. And also with us tonight are several members of our dedicated Parks and Recreation team. Today, we're here to recognize July as Park and Recreation Month in Stanislaus County and to celebrate our staff and accomplishments over the last year as we continue to enrich lives through outdoor experiences that inspire lifetimes. Annually, we celebrate Park and Recreation Month each July, and this year's National Recreation and Park Association theme is Where You Belong. It celebrates the many ways park and recreation professionals across the country foster a sense of belonging in their community by providing welcoming and inclusive programs, essential services for all ages and abilities, and safe, accessible spaces to build meaningful connections. This month, let's celebrate the many reasons why local parks and recreation truly embody the essence of belonging, and together we can demonstrate why these spaces are where you belong. Last October, we reopened a renovated Oregon park to the community. We've recently partnered with the Health Services Agency Park RX program, which focuses to get more people outside to use park spaces and works towards physicians prescribing recreation and outdoors as part of their health plan. This program provides funding for supplies and plant seeds for a vegetable garden at the Oregon Park Community Garden. We've also partnered with HSA CalFresh Healthy Living, the Police Activities League, and UC Cooperative Extension Master's Gardener Program to work with the community to plant and maintain their community garden. Additionally, this program also supports a new walking group in the airport neighborhood. With the receipt of the Building Community Services investment funding, we've been able to maintain and upgrade basic park amenities. All our community and neighborhood parks are receiving upgrades with new concrete pads, concrete picnic tables, new barbecues, and swing-style garbage cans. Tree trimming efforts are in year 3 and is tracked in our inventory to keep us up with regular ongoing maintenance. Picnic shelters are also being maintained with any needed repairs and new paint. The vandalized shade structure over Fairview Park Playground was raised 5 feet and replaced earlier this year. We're very grateful for the board's commitment to improving our parks and the ability to provide a nice outdoor space for the community to gather, play, and belong. County Parks is responsible for 4 cemeteries in our county. There are times when the county receives a request to bury a loved one in one of our county cemeteries, and then there's just those times when they take it upon themselves without our knowledge. At Roberts Ferry Cemetery, plot mapping was completed, which included ground-penetrating radar that identified over 50 unmarked graves. The community will soon be able to view the burial roster and the map online. At Roberts Ferry Cemetery, the oldest birth we found was in 1789 and a death in 1853. To the most recent death was just last year. We also have veterans from World War I, II, and the Korean War. We've been making infrastructure improvements at the reservoirs. We worked with the State Water Board to replace 4 monitoring wells at each reservoir. The well consists of a pipe inserted in the ground to access the groundwater beneath the surface, as shown in the lower left corner picture. Monitoring wells are used to assess changes in groundwater levels, track contaminants, and gather data essential for understanding the health and dynamics of groundwater resources. We have staff that collect samples that are reported to the State Water Board. Additionally, we've completed some paving improvements to enhance the customer's experience when traveling through our parks, either by vehicle, bicycle, or even horse. If you have ever driven over the road at Woodward Reservoir from the main boat dock to Picnic Point, you are familiar with the significant road deterioration that's pictured at the top center of the slide. Next to it is the newly paved road, and what a difference. I would like to thank our partners with the Departments of Environmental Resources and Public Works for working with our team to make these improvements. Our customers requested, and we listened. With the board-approved new camping fee structure, we added 104 additional reservable campsite options this year. Our general campsites are available at both Modesto and Woodward reservoirs and located at the areas shown on the slide. These sites have been reserved throughout this summer. And speaking of the reservoirs, did you know we loan out life jackets for free at both our reservoirs? We have a life jacket loaner station located at Modesto Reservoir main boat dock and Woodward Reservoir at Office Point. They're open from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. during the summer. They're also available upon request at our entrance station, or you could ask any parks or sheriff's staff, and they would be happy to assist you. We have all sizes available from toddler to adults for both males and females, and we even have one for a dog. We receive life jackets from CETO Foundation, California Boating and Waterways, and we've received generous donations from the community through life jacket drives held by Twin Rivers Saloon, 108 Sports Lounge, and Red Line Valley Car Club. It's unfortunate that we continue to experience drownings at our reservoirs. And we encourage everyone recreating in, around, or on the water to wear a life jacket. After all, life jackets save lives. In 2022, we implemented a new regional park customer survey, and the survey seeks feedback on a 5-star rating scale and asks for customer feedback. We ask our visitors, what do they enjoy? They enjoy the campsite proximity to the water, the wildlife, and the peaceful setting, at least from those who visit us in the spring months prior to our summer season. We also receive feedback that our park is cleaner. A customer even commented that they appreciate the huge positive improvements from past experiences. Well done. Another customer states that they reside in Modesto and stay every year in the spring before the park gets busy. They have RV traveled to over 35 states and say they'd be hard-pressed to name another state or federal park that is friendlier or treats them better. We ask our customers, tell us, where can we improve? And feedback is fairly consistent. Park patrol and enforcement of park rules, address the feral cat population, frequent bathroom maintenance and litter removal, along with our long-standing issue of too much geese poop. So our customers love to watch the birds, they just don't want them pooping where they play. We have been working to reduce the feral cat population by partnering with local groups to catch and release, spay and neuter our new guests to reduce future increases in population. We agree that increased park patrol is needed, along with more frequent cleaning of the bathrooms and litter removal. In order to address these concerns, we would need to increase staffing resources. However, in the meantime, our guests can help us by being considerate of other campers and picking up after themselves. Every year, the Modesto Bee conducts a Reader's Choice contest where the public votes. Last year, both our reservoirs were listed under the category of Things to Do, Best RV Campground. We won gold for Woodward Reservoir and silver for Modesto Reservoir. And moving on to highlight recreation side of Parks and Rec, we're in the middle of our second season of the Mobile Rec Van program. Operated by our partners, the Police Activities League, the Mobile Rec Van is equipped with fun activities and games and provides summer programming for youth ages 6 to 17 years. We offer programming at 5 county parks Monday through Friday, 12 to 5 p.m., and at those parks that are listed on the screen. We added additional programming this summer to include a drum circle, art classes, climb tower, and disc golf, where golfers receive a promotional golf disc. We also have days planned for kids' t-shirt giveaway. The shirts say play and laugh. In fact, we were just at Fairview Park today handing out t-shirts to kids who visited our rec van. Please visit our website at stancountyparks.com for the current rec van schedule. We held our second annual Dia de los Muertos event at Fairview Park. This is a free cultural community event with performances and fun activities with about 400 people in attendance last year. We have several partners in the community that make this happen, including PAL, Manos Unidas, Sierra Vista Child and Family Services, and our newest partner, UC Davis Western Center for Ag Health. Our 8th annual egg hunt was held at Modesto Reservoir, a fun family event with over 600 visitors this year. We were blessed with a break in the stormy weather that day and allowed the community to get out of the house and come out and play where they belong. PAL is our partner in hosting this event, and we could not pull this off without the many donors and volunteers that come out to support us. We increased our donor and sponsors this year, listed on the screen, which allows us to give out bikes, helmets, and bike locks to a lucky egg hunter at each age group level, along with baskets full of goodies and gift certificates to local eateries. And then most recently, on June 29th, we held our 28th annual fireworks celebration at Woodward Reservoir with visitors from the Bay Area, Foothills, and Central Valley. This year we added some food trucks that gave our visitors more food options during the event. And once again, we were blessed with beautiful weather as we snuck in the event before the heat wave hit us later that week. The show was wonderful and lasted about 25 minutes. When the show ended, the crowd cheered and broke out into song. It was truly an inspiring moment. New to Stanislaus County is the Spartan Race Series, and this features military-style obstacles designed to test participants' strength, stamina, and mental grit. There were over 6,500 participants over a period of 2 days. The race director said that their staff really liked the venue, and they have confirmed that they will be back next year. Our Parks Department was well represented at the event. Participants shown on the slide include Judith from our County Center's Community Parks Division, Julie with her family, Ray, our Park Supervisor at Woodward Reservoir, and Miguel, our Park Specialist with administration. Job well done, team. There's always plenty of work to do at our park sites, and we truly appreciate the volunteers that help us out. This year, Jose from Manos Unidas, South Modesto Community Group, led a Love Modesto maintenance project at Fairview Park. The Clampers did a cleanup day at Roberts Ferry Cemetery, and we have dirt bike and four-wheel clubs that host projects at our off-highway vehicle parks. Pacific Mobile Structures dedicated 25 employees for a workday to plant several plants along streetscape in Salida. They believe in giving back to the community and plan to offer their services to parks annually. We couldn't be more grateful for their time and dedication to the Stanislaus community. We continue to improve our reach to our customers, and this year we improved our website to focus on customer access and real-time sharing of information. You can visit our website at stancountyparks.com. We are working hard to get the word out with billboard advertising throughout Stanislaus County, and maybe you've seen us while you're waiting for the train at 9th and K or on your way to work on Crow's Landing Road. You can even find us on Golden State Boulevard in Turlock. We are getting the word out about our park activities, employment opportunities, and creating awareness on water safety through our Life Jacket Loaner program. And maybe you've seen us in the 209 magazine and Modesto View, where we share general information plus our event schedule and a call to action to host events at one of our beautiful regional parks. We are only better together. And could not accomplish all this without, sorry, I get so emotional when I talk about my team.
I thought it was the picture of Buck Condon.
And I practiced this. All right, without our amazing staff. Just last month, the board recognized Eddie for 25 years of county service. All of which was spent with Parks Department, and then he celebrated his retirement. Pictured on the left is Oscar maintaining the courthouse lawn. Did you even know that was a county park? And were you also aware that county staff do the planting every year at 10th Street Plaza? Pictured are Daniel, Humberto, Ferdinand, that are beautifying downtown Modesto Plaza, where people gather, where they belong. Judith is an admin clerk assigned to our County Center Community Parks team. Pictured in the center, not only is she a stellar employee, always helping out where she's needed, she continues her dedication to our community whenever, my goodness, whenever we need assistance at the community events. She's always someone who volunteers to help and has even recruited her family members to help, including her mom. We appreciate them all. Then we have Sherry pictured at the top left. She's assigned to Woodward Reservoir Entrance Station. When I read the monthly customer survey responses, our visitors speak kindly of our park staff. However, one name is mentioned on the regular, and that's Sherry. Our customers often comment how nice and helpful she is. She greets our customers with a smile, even on the hottest and busiest days of the summer season. She promotes a high level of customer service we all seek to achieve. Then Humberto, pictured operating the tractor on the right, was recently promoted to park maintenance worker 2. He works diligently to repair and resolve the many irrigation issues and other damages sustained by numerous flooding events at Laird Park. Also pictured cleaning up Laird Park is Daniel, operating the skid steer on the left, Oscar, Dwayne, and Joe raking up debris. All of them are assigned to the County Centers and Community Parks team. It's a privilege to work beside this team of dedicated employees who work hard every day in the elements to provide spaces for family and friends to gather where you belong. Thank you for allowing us to celebrate with you today.
So, Manny, we're going to let you handle it,
All
sorry.
right, I wanted to make sure that all of us got the opportunity to let you know how much we appreciate you and your staff. We all have different parks in our districts and in Stanislaus County, and they are all for the residents of Stanislaus County. Many are utilized that aren't even residents of Stanislaus County, but since they're such regional treasures, they come, as Tara said, our reservoirs are utilized by members of our community and other members from other communities. And for us, it's very important that the residents of Stanislaus County have a place where they feel safe, where their children can enjoy at a nominal cost, some have some expenses, but most of our parks are free to the public, and we want a place where people can come and their families can come and enjoy, and that would not be possible. Obviously, you're very passionate about this, as is your staff, and it shows. So we're so grateful and thankful to all of you for maintaining our parks so that the public can enjoy them. And that's why July 2024 has been, there's a resolution that the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors proclaimed the month of July 2024 as Park and Recreation Month. So we still got a couple of days left of good weather, and then it gets hot again, but don't let that be an impediment for you to enjoy the parks. And again, thank you so much to you and your staff. And those shirts, those are some good shirts. I'm just telling you, you guys picked a great color, and it's always shows that the passion that you have, and it shows. So thank you very much. And I know some board members have some comments, so we're going to take a picture real quick, and then I know some board members want to share some comments. And you can bring the whole team. Yeah. Should I wear my shirt? I don't know if it's going to fit. I would wear my shirt, but I don't know if it's going to fit. But it gives me motivation to work harder to make sure it fits. Are you? Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you.
So given the opportunity to just say a couple of words, first of all, I love that you get choked up because Italians and Irishmen get the same way when we're talking about family, and that just tells all of the employees within your department how you consider them, right? Family members. I will tell you that I drive in and out. I'll go bust into Modesto Reservoir once in a while and just go take a look. Obviously, there's the community parks. Frank Raines, I swung through there recently. Up in LaGrange, I went and drove up to the off-road park, and I've never seen our parks in better condition. And now, remember, I've been on the board at the downturn of the economy, and now, like you're talking about paving roads, and just seeing better structures, cleaner structures, the water feature at Fairview, just things that are really enticing to the community. A couple of things a question I want to ask you is, because we've had some drownings, you have the life jacket program, and do you see any other way we can be helpful in getting the word out? Because the tragedies continue, and yet everyone knows that it's available. They're available. We got to do a better job. When I say we, I'm talking about us and not parks. I know that you're advertising. Anything we can do to help?
You know, Vito, I'm a problem solver. And so I'm looking at this issue and thinking about it and trying to figure out how do we get more life jackets around Woodward Reservoir and Modesto Reservoir. And so I'll be working with our team in the coming weeks to see what we can do. And we may even have a call out to volunteers to come out and spread the word at the reservoirs themselves.
It seems like it's mostly middle-aged males who are out there swimming, and they're probably like me.
Those men.
Yeah, they're a little out of shape, and they think
They
they still
know it
got
all,
it.
right?
So, but again, the parks look fantastic. I appreciate everything, the 5 regional parks. I know that we're doing really well at Woodward. They had to close it down for the fireworks, right? A couple of times you've had to close it down because of capacity issues.
This year for the fireworks show, we were able to leave it open the entire time. 4th of July, we did have to close due to capacity.
Yeah, okay, but thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the board?
And just, Tara, thank you and your team for what you guys do. You know, we talk a lot about the Woodward and the for adults and enjoy, but when you see those pictures of the kids, I mean, we all think back of our childhood, and depending on how blessed we were or not, you see a lot of these kids, and this is just the best place that they have to go from the environment that they're living in, and they come to these parks, and it just means everything. So I know we have the one over, I can't remember,
Burbank Paradise.
Burbank Paradise Park. It's full all the time since you guys redid that, and it's just it makes such a difference. Like I said, sometimes it's a getaway for these kids, for them to go and forget about everything that's going on in their lives. And so I so appreciate what you do and what all of you guys do for the park. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Hello. All right, it's working. Thank you, Tara, for you and your team, that all you do. I'm a frequent user of the parks, always has been. Modesto Reservoir, Woodward, the four-wheel drive park. In my past life, one of the areas I covered was the Oregon Park. And what a total change that remake of that park has been. And I just want to give you guys as much props as I can, because you're doing a really great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much to you and your staff for making all of us, all of this possible through the Parks program, and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Next, we have public comment period. Do have one written comment for the record.
That's on the item.
Oh, that's on the later item, but for public comment, I have many public comment cards, so if everybody can please speak on items not on the agenda already, and please state your name for the record, and direct all comments towards the dais, and so it's fair for all the speakers that we have today. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you so much, and I will start calling the speakers that have turned in public comment cards. First one is Diane Crozy. Good afternoon, Diane.
Hello.
Good evening.
I also was a Modesto Reservoir a long time ago. My dad and I ski boat, etc. Anyway, I'm Diane Cruzy of Modesto, and I'm here because I am an advocate for the homeless. The homeless of our county and cities are still on the streets, on the dirt, and experiencing whatever the sky might give them. When so-called Progress Supreme Court decision allowed cities, counties to handle homeless camping as if any way they wish to do so, which means everything is up for grabs. So a lot of cities right now are starting to do a lot of bad things that are treating them like they aren't people. Now being on the street is even more criminal in our eyes because of this, and theirs. And it creates a criminal record. And that also takes up your money for your sheriff, the police, and their time, and et cetera. So that all goes together. Modesto and County have come together in tiny houses for those with mental issues, but that still leaves lots of people uncared for. Those houses are supposed to be the fix. I say suppose because I don't see or hear of any grand announcements of so-called progress. Those not meeting the usual civilized routine for sleeping, eating, bathing, aren't fitting in the boxes you've created, not necessarily you, but a conglomeration of yous. They can't. Those that some people call vermin are just simply people without capabilities to make everything right for selves. They're depressed, stressed, sick, disabled. Described these people, and you just seem to forget that they are just humans. The first three lead to problems like alcohol, drugs, suicide, and death. Maybe the last two, alcohol and drugs, contributed to being homeless, but that's not necessarily true for everybody. That is a misnomer. Whatever cause, the fix is understanding and applying the knowledge. These people are different. They're not vermin, folks, but human beings. Meaning problems must be thought out differently. You can't just put them all in the same little box. And solutions fitting the people, not what you think. If you are sleepy, hungry, cold, hot, or being attacked in a regular home, all you have to do is call the police and solve it, or turn up your air conditioning. Not so for the homeless. Police might mean jail, losing their home, which they consider their possessions. Sleeping means maybe being attacked, or can I even sleep because it's not safe? That's another problem, because they don't even want safe camping. And now you might get thrown in jail. Hungry, no money, food, no food, unless maybe you steal. Now you have the police involved. The weather's bad, well, hope for a shelter are the best possible outcome that you can find. When will you think of homeless as people instead of objects, which the same needs as you? Because they are. They need everything else you do, and they don't have the money for it. They also need a place to be unafraid and secure, even for a night at least. One night, guys. None of you have to worry about that. You just shut your door, close your windows, and you're done. And so I'm hoping that maybe you will start thinking about these as people and not things. They deserve, at some point in time, they probably paid taxes, but now they can't, and sometimes they don't ever get a chance anymore because they don't know how to anymore, and they've been out there so long, some of them. Yeah. Gentlemen, and there is no ladies up here, but I certainly do hope you will start thinking about land for these people, whether it's with the city or with your own, because I know county has unused property, because I've looked at some of your maps, and I'm hoping maybe you will contact the city and work with them, and all the other cities too besides Modesto. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Next speaker card I have is Dwayne Heinrich.
Evening.
Good evening, Mr. Heinrich.
Supervisors. I am Dwayne Heinrich. I live on Shoemake Avenue in Wood Colony. And I'm here tonight to speak on I'm opposing the Rainbow Story Time at our public libraries, public county libraries. County libraries are supposed to be places where we can read and learn, not spaces where public employees take the innocence of our young kids and replace it with leftist sexual indoctrination and promoting gender confusion, unhealthy behaviors. This is a sneaky way to expose young children to an alternative lifestyle, to persuade them to question their identity, to groom them for evil. An example is one story. Mr. Watkins' Chickens shows a picture of two grown men sharing the same bedroom. I'm calling on you as elected officials to counsel this transgender Rainbow Story Time that's funded by my local tax dollars. You have declared June to be Pride Month. Why does this have to be a whole month? Why not just a day set aside for their cause? This truly is a breakdown of the family unit as created by our God. Yes, mockery of what God created, two genders, male and female. To win the war on this attack on the family, we must stand up for what is right and what we believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next speaker card, they didn't put their last name, but it's Ken. You could just state your name, last name for the record as well, Ken, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Higgins. Good evening, gentlemen. I'll start out with this. Our county needs voter ID and same-day voting. It's easy to change the election results with the voting machines. It's so easy to change with these machines. These machines can be hacked, programmed. It's very, very easy. I advise you to go to the video that I suggest. If you just go to a YouTube or Rumble, put in David Clemens, Let My People Go. It's about an hour and a half. I gave these gals to pass it out to you. It's about an hour and a half, and after you see that, you are going to know that it's so easy to cheat in an election. So I'm also like to quote Elon Musk here, and the question is, how do the migrants vote? How do the migrants vote? Okay, they are not importing Democratic voters. They are importing people's names that allow the state fraud process to generate ballots. The migrants will not use the ballots. The DNC harvesters will collect them, fill them out, then the precinct workers will scan them and count them. Illegals don't need to vote. They only need to exist to create a ballot. Let me read that again. Illegals don't need to vote. They only need to exist to create a ballot. Now, Donna Linder can somewhat resolve this, where she can go to Homeland Security and ask if they're the illegals or the migrants are citizens. And it's really easy, and they have to tell her what they are. So I advise her to look into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Next speaker card I have is Patricia Schaefer. Patricia Schaefer? Patricia Schaefer? Right? Oh, here she comes.
Hello.
Hi, Patricia. Good evening.
I'm going to be real short. I just want to say I'm 81 and I've voted every election my whole time. And I think our election should be a lot sooner, done a lot sooner. We should know the results a lot sooner. We were able to do that when I was young and started voting at 18. And I think it's ridiculous. On 2020, I went to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. And at that time, President Trump was over 6,000 ahead. And I woke up in the morning and no President Trump. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Patricia. Next speaker is Melinda Mason. Good evening, Melinda.
Hello. I think you all know who I am, but I'll state it for the record. Melinda Mason. I am a Christian. I am a patriot. And I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. And I'm appalled by some of the things that are going on in this county, as you well are aware. I am a charter member and former of what's called the Stanislaus County Pro-Life. We've been in existence now for about 42 years. I'm a founding partner of what's called the California Straight Pride Coalition. I am the chairman for the new state of California. And for those of you who aren't aware, there is a new state. We have been to Congress now a couple times. and we intend to stand up that state soon in front of the people. I am also the assemblywoman for the new state of California, and I'm here because I want to see us go back to sanity, what is natural, normal, healthy, and sane for our families and our children. I want us to go back to using our tax dollars to help promote things that are ethical, that are moral, that are godly. Our children need to learn to read and write. They don't know how. I took my children out of these government schools in 1986 because I could see the writing on the wall. And I said to my husband, our boys are never going to get a good education. I'm taking them out. And he said, you didn't finish a teaching degree? I said, no, I didn't. He said, is it legal? I said, I don't know. I don't care. I bore them. I bled. They're mine, and I'm going to take them back. So I think it's one of the best things I ever did. I took my children out. They are all extremely successful. You probably all know them. One of them, unfortunately, was touched by a male within the Republican Party and the church. That young man came to me at 19 years of age and told me that he asked me how long he could stay in my home. I said, as long as you like. As long as you're working full-time, going to school part-time, or vice versa. That young man was becoming a lawyer, and he got so distracted by his sexual perversion that he quit law school. He was at the top of his class. He was not learning what many learn, corporate law. He was learning something called constitutional law. We have failed our children. My generation did not get a good education, and I'm old. I know that the succeeding ones have not, and I think it's a dirty, rotten, crying shame that we would open up our public libraries, our public parks. We had registered, and I have used the county parks for decades. I have hosted many events there, some with as many as 5,000 people, some with as many as 200 pastors and churches involved from all around the surrounding counties way back in the day. And I was never turned down. And when I came before you all and asked to use the parks, I was told we could not use it for the Straight Pride Coalition because, after all, children might hear us preaching the gospel, telling the truth. And it's very easy for people to find. YouTube my name and you'll get 1,000 videos and a good education. I think it's time to go back to ethical, moral teaching, things that are normal, natural, healthy, and sane. And when it comes to voting, I helped put on a demo election here. It's been done in several counties, and we went back and did it the way that it was done from the first time I voted. And we did that in one day, in person, with paper ballots. We hand counted them on the same day. And we had the results for everyone by the evening. It was simple and it was inexpensive. You are wasting our tax dollars to cheat us out of our votes. You guys have some power and control, not much, not a lot, I get it. But you have enough, and you have voices, and you're not using them the way I do. I'm ashamed of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker card I have is David Eck.
Hello.
Good evening.
I just heard about this Rainbow Storytime business going on in public libraries. I just want to remind you guys, when we opened our meeting here today, we were talking about God. That's important. We're talking about liberty and justice for all. Well, I don't see it. God won't be mocked. And talk about fear. The fear of God is the beginning of all understanding. It's the beginning of wisdom. When I hear that we got a gay pride month or something like that, we're doing these rainbow story times, corrupting children. My parents raised me to be smarter than that. They said, hey, stay away from this stuff. Run the other direction. Now we're putting it in public places. It just concerns me. I say, you guys, find a church, a place that teaches the Bible. Get some fear, because God won't be mocked. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next speaker card I have, they didn't put down their first name, but G. Bowen. If you could please just state your full name for the record.
Sure. My name's Glenelle Bowen, and I think you're starting to get the picture that a lot of people are concerned about the voting methods that we use, and I think that if for no other reason, whether you believe the voting is full of fraud or not, your citizens are concerned about it. There isn't enough transparency. For that reason alone, you need to stop using voting machines. You need to have voting on one day. People need to come and give their IDs and show up and put their vote in and have it be transparent. Small precincts with paper ballots that are hand counted with same-day results. It's been proven over and over again. It was done that way in the past. We can do that. And there's no reason that we shouldn't be doing it again. My understanding is that it's been estimated that when you use mail-in ballots, it costs $19.50 each between printing and mailing and getting it back. And when you use a hand-counted ballot, it costs $1.85. It is clearly cheaper to use this as a hand count, same-day voting method with paper ballots. Everybody is having financial problems, every municipality, and it's a great way to save money, and it is going to encourage transparency, and your citizens are going to appreciate the ability to know what's going on, and that their vote is being counted and not being diluted by other fraudulent votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker card I have, they didn't say their last name, but Henry.
I'm going to do my time to Melinda.
Yeah, you can't defer your time. No, you've already spoken, ma'am. I don't know if he could defer his time.
Henry wants to give you his time.
Yeah, I think it's individual. It's individual to each person, so.
I didn't bring my notes, but I'd like to do my time back to Melinda.
It's, the 5 minutes are individual to each person, I apologize. You're more than welcome to come and speak.
Get 5 minutes?
Yeah, each speaker gets 5 minutes. All right, thank you.
Did you say it is not lawful to yield your time?
Yeah.
Can you quote me the section, please, so I can write it down and look it up?
Each speaker gets 5 minutes, and that's it. Yeah, we can talk about this later.
Where it says that he can't yield his time to someone. Can you quote me that section, please?
This isn't a conversation. We can do that later.
That's obvious, but thank you very much.
All right, next speaker card I have is Ron Mason.
Hello, I'm Ron Mason. I'll make this real quick. I hate public speaking. Well, the reason why I'm here is because I've been voting for many years. I'm 63, going on 64, and had a lot of faith in our system in voting. But lately, I come to find out and feel that I cannot trust our system in voting because of the technology. would say, technology of the system with Dominion and all that we have. And I think that's great, but it also can be not great. It could work against us, and it can deceive if we think we're voting for somebody and the machines change their vote. So I would encourage you to look at that video and see how the changes are done for us, because I think that it's important that the people who are voting feel comfortable. And I don't think I'm the only one who've lost confidence in our voting. I want to have confidence in our voting system, but I just think that it's very important for us to go back to a system like one-day voting, show your ID, something that people can't just come off the streets and say, I'm voting, and cast a vote. And then the other thing that I want to mention is that what we're here for is that I don't feel like that we should be spending our tax dollars for the story hour for the Rainbow story hours. I think that that's between a family, mother and father, and the parents. And it's they would say they came a long ways for the progress that they stepped. But I think it's invasion. It's not advancement for them. And I think that if they really have the facility, why don't they have it at their place? Why don't they open it up to invite them to Thursday? Why take our tax dollars? So people who want to go to a story hour or to the library and listen to someone, they don't have to listen to their agenda that they're trying to throw down our families' values and come against the mother, father, and but anyways, thank you very much.
All right, next speaker card I have is someone that didn't put their last name, but Jan. So when they come up, if they could state their full name for the record, please. No worries. Hopefully next time. Thank you. Hi, Jan.
Hi. Good evening, gentlemen.
Could you state your full name for the record, please?
Jan Higgins.
Thank you.
It's time for our country and the world to wake up. Elon Musk has had 2 assassination attempts in his life in the last 8 months. Do you know what happened to the Secret Service detail on Saturday, July 13th? A group of service agents were called away from Trump's rally to cover Joe Biden. Now, why would that be? Resources say the shooter was on that route for 25 minutes. Is this the kind of administration you want to continue? 351,000 votes were deleted in the Newsom recall. How did that happen? It's the machines. This was done by hacking the machines. There's no accountability for these machines. Please watch the David Clements video as you have the paperwork. It's called Let My People Go. All areas of voting can be taken over remotely. Also, the movie 2,000 Mules is also proof, that satellite proof of all the mules and how the ballot boxes were stuffed. Also, with the voting, the digital poll books can be hacked, the tabulation machines can be hacked, the USB can be hacked. Every which way they can be hacked. The Obama-Biden administration is following the Saul Alinsky playbook. I'm sure you've heard of that. And this includes 3 basic concepts. Number 1 is demoralization of our country. It includes sexual immorality, as seen in the library, transgender readings, sex trafficking. The second one is destabilization, open borders, Bidenomics, wars, rioting in universities, rioting at RNC conventions. The third, crisis, COVID-19, shutdowns, fear, deaths, riots at conventions, like I just said. People have been jailed for speaking the truth. We still have J6ers in jail. Trump says only he is standing in the way because they are coming after the patriots next. See how close we got? My dad put 25 years in the Navy fighting for freedom. He was in World War II. My father-in-law was a bomber pilot in the South Pacific. They both were right in the war zones. How will your children and your grandchildren feel if you let them steal our country away completely? I'd like to share something else real quick here. I believe our God is calling us to repentance and unity in this country. And I'd like to share some scripture from 2 Corinthians 6. How can righteousness be a partner with wickedness? How can light live in darkness? What union can there be between God's temple and idols? God said, I will live with them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. Therefore, come out from among unbelievers and separate yourselves from them, says the Lord. Don't touch their filthy things, and I will welcome you. And I will be your father, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker card I have is for Robert Shannon.
That's a little faster I can go.
No worries, take your time, take your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm Robert Shannon from Modesto, and I'd just like to speak on the having the election on one day. Everybody registered, everybody with IDs. I was part of the mock election that was set up, and I was surprised at how well it went. We had over 400 people that showed up to vote, and the counting was done within less than an hour. So it can be done, and it can be done very easily and at a lot less cost. What surprised me was this last primary election was how it took over 2 weeks to get the final results just in Stanislaus County. And that's when you can do it in one day. The other thing I'd like to address is I worked the polls for a number of years, and I worked the desk where people came in and presented their name to me, and it's a little difficult to figure out how somebody spells, Aronowski or Shishin Min or even Terry Withrow. I mean, it's having an ID is very important. It makes the job easier, and to have the paper rolls, you go through it. You can do it very quickly. I don't know about there've been a lot of stuff going around about the computers, the machines are connected to the internet. Our clerk says ours are not, but forensic experts have said that a lot of these machines have been pre-programmed for different areas, and where they have different algorithms. If something hits a certain number on one side, it can switch and move it to another side. So there are things like that we can eliminate by going back to one-day voting and hand counting of the ballots. I first voted first time I voted was in Detroit. Voted for back when John Kennedy ran for the first time. It was my first time voting in a presidential election. So I've been around a couple of years and I've seen a lot, lived in different areas of the country, and the hand counting has always worked. So, yeah, proof. Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker card, I have, the name on it is Arnie. Arnie? If you could just please state your last name also for the record, please.
Good evening, Board. My name is Arnie Conrad, and I am a public school teacher here in Modesto, California. First, I'd like to state for the record also, my father was a U.S. Marine. He was at Iwo Jima in World War II, and I don't think he fought that war for us to have the country that we have today. I'd like to talk first about the library situation. We all believe and know that libraries are important to us. I'm a public school teacher. These libraries are especially important for our children. What better place to take the rainbow agenda to do the grooming that they want to do? We have even voted to impose taxes, extra taxes upon ourselves to support our libraries. Back in the 90s, we were told by the board that there wasn't enough money. We were going to have to cut library hours. But if we passed something on the ballot, then we would impose extra taxes upon ourselves for library support. I don't want my tax money going to support a Rainbow Story Hour in the public libraries. No culture or civilization in history has ever had homosexuality associated with the strength or the rise of that culture. Homosexuality isn't always present and celebrated in every culture. But when it is present and paraded and celebrated in public, it is always in the death and dying stages of a culture. There's also no genetic basis for homosexuality. Finally, I would offer Disney to you. Go woke, go broke. You've seen what they've done with children's movies over the last 40 years, and they are paying a heavy price, as they should. I'd also like to talk a little bit about how we vote. 70% of America is pretty convinced that something fishy happened in 2020. Mass mailings of ballots. I know it sounds like an easy way to do things, and if men were angels, we wouldn't need governments, and if men were angels, all the votes would be counted properly. I think Stalin said something like, it isn't who casts the ballots, it's who counts the ballots. And we're running into huge problems with who is counting and how our ballots are being counted. As was previously said here, machines can be worked with. We were originally told that there was no internet connection on these voting machines, and yet we know that that isn't true. Additionally, vote changes have happened within those machines. Another element is the voter signification, or authenticating the voter signatures. You can run through machines that are tightly done with 10 points of match. Some are set at 5, some are set. A lot of them sometimes are just plain turned off. There is no signature match. I think we need to clean up our voter rolls. There was a court case not too long ago about Los Angeles needing to clean up their rolls. 1 million names were taken off the list. I'm sure Donna Linder will tell us that everything is 100% okay, just fine right here in our county. Okay. But voter rolls need to be updated. Also, I'd like to talk about the Voter Choice Act. I don't have a lot of information on this. I understand in 2016, the state legislature passed a law that would give counties the authority to decide if they wanted to do elections in different ways. So, not every county has gone to mass mailing. There are counties out there that still do ballots that people fill out by hand and turn in and are hand counted. But somehow Stanislaus County does this mass mailing. Did this board have anything to do with that decision? I mean, this is the County Board of Supervisors. Did this board vote to do away with in-person voting and go to mass mailing? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. But if this board had anything to do with doing away with in-person voting, I would like to encourage the board to reverse that so we can go back to in-person voting. I think that's what our county needs. Additionally, the lemon test was overturned by the Supreme Court last year. That dealt with what was okay as far as the entanglement of religion and government. We now have a history and tradition test for what's appropriate with in our public schools and in our counties. I know there are some places that have on the wall, "In God We Trust," as a poster or as a banner. I would like to encourage this board to adopt that, have it put on the board to remind us all that that is our country. In God we trust. Thank you. Good night. May God bless all of you. May God bless the United States of America.
Next speaker card I have is for Kenneth. Kenneth, if you don't mind stating your last name once you're up here for the record, please.
Good evening to you all. My name is Kenneth Calvin Jr., and I put down some notes here. So good evening, honorable members of the City Council. My name again is Kenneth Calvin Jr. We are incredibly grateful for the privilege of standing here today, a privilege that's been made possible by the sacrifices of countless individuals who laid the foundation for this great nation. I guess I'll just kind of jump right in. I put down notes. I had a couple different things that I thought to bring up, and I know that a lot of people who spoke before me are mentioning them. We got up, we gave the Pledge of Allegiance. We can talk about a lot of different facts, and there's a lot of good things to know about how voting systems and things like that work. But as a nation, and as just this people here in this room, morality matters. What you believe matters. It dictates every decision that you make. Law and legislation is inherently moral, okay? So I'll go back to my notes. Moreover, we recognize that our liberties are ultimately derived from the perfect law of liberty, as revealed in Scripture and upheld by our Lord Jesus Christ. This is really, really important. At the founding of this nation, you had deists, you had people who were atheists, who were agnostic, and a little handful of Christians. And what they were able to agree on was that the law of liberty, as depicted in Scripture, was something that they could agree on. Benjamin Franklin was not a Christian, but he looked at the Scriptures and he could see the law that was there, that it would uphold this nation. You guys, you might not see yourselves in a grand light, you know. You're part of the City Council. You have a really, really important role. You're not the president, you know. You're not the governor, but your role is extremely important. You represent the people, and you uphold, at this level, this town, right? It's an incredible position that you all have. So our nation's motto, "One Nation Under God," reflects our commitment to honoring God in all aspects of our lives, including our political institutions. While we acknowledge the importance of separating church and state, we also understand that this separation does not mean abandoning our allegiance to God in the integrity of our laws. Rather, it means recognizing that church and state are two distinct institutions with separate spheres of influences, while acknowledging that God is sovereign over all. This is what the founders understood, having left Britain behind, and they've been under the tyranny of the church, which could happen again. You don't want to end up under the tyranny of the church. That's the direction that things go, okay? They understood that there are two different institutions. They have two different spheres of influence, and the church is responsible for religious matters. Now, you all are responsible for upholding law and justice. So when you hear these things brought up about LGBTQ+, or I know that there's abortion mills in your town, you have babies that are being slaughtered in your city. on a regular basis, and you have the divine role and responsibility to take action and to stand against that. Okay? Not because you're opposed to the people that you represent, even if you disagree. It's not that you're opposed to them, it's because you love them. Okay? It's because you love them and you understand that a child, if you walk up to a 5-year-old little boy or girl and you start telling them that they're either a boy or a girl or something other than that, you've totally confused them. You've destroyed them. Okay? When a baby is killed inside of the womb, you've killed an innocent human being, and the blood is on their blood is on your hands. If you have done nothing, their blood is on your hands. So understand this. I invoke the name of Jesus Christ, and I don't know what you guys' role is in all of this, but I call you to repentance, to stop the bloodshed in this town. I know people. I know a 19-year-old girl. She's alive today by somebody standing down at the abortion clinic located in your city. Just a dude standing out there, hated by everybody, people driving by, flipping him off, telling him you want to kill him, all this different stuff. And she's alive today because mom didn't go in and take the life of her baby. Okay, now her mom doesn't also have to live with that on herself either. So I'm touching a lot of different topics, and I understand that. So we are blessed to live in a nation that cherishes religious freedom and recognizes the role of faith in shaping our society. The separation between church and state, the church is not allowed to tell the state what to do, and the state is not allowed to infringe on the rights of the church. Okay, they're two separate institutions. And that's really, really important to understand. But the law that you uphold, whether you're Muslim, whatever background that you have, it's the Bible. It's the Bible. A lady got up and she talked about homelessness. You can't control homelessness with drug addiction running rampantly. Sacramento is a sex trafficking capital. That's ridiculous. It's happening right on the borders of your towns. And remember this, when nations collapse, you might feel like you have security. But people in your role are who they come after next. God bless you all, and I hope we change.
Thank you. Next speaker card I have is Nissan Sanchez. I apologize if I said the first name incorrectly.
Greetings, Chairman Grual, Board of Supervisors. My name is Nathan Sanchez. Stanislaus County is where I live, and Ceres is a city that I call home. Please allow me to quickly read these statistics. In the year of 2023, 378 sworn-in law enforcement officers were shot in the line of duty. Of those attacks, 46 officers were killed by gunfire. And to flip the script, the number of fatal police shootings in the same year to where a civilian suffered the fatal gunshot wound was roughly 1,063 civilians. I'm not here this evening to try and justify or to try and debate or to pick sides on if it was over policing or if it was a civilian being too combative or whatnot. But I am here this evening to remind you guys in the next coming weeks on August the 6th, there is going to be a day that is recognized in our beautiful country of the United States of America. This day has been set aside to help build partnerships, to help build camaraderie amongst who? The police department and the community in itself. This has been going on for 40 years, as I have mentioned, and I'm sad to say, but the numbers have not dwindled. As a matter of fact, when I was reading a little bit about it, it has actually increased. But me and my wife refuse to just sit back and to not do what we can. In what way we can help bring the community together. In what way we can help bring our neighborhood together. to help build the mutual respect, to remind the police department in itself, and not only that, but the fellow community members, that they are people as well. So that's why I want to take time out tonight, this evening, to invite you, Board of Supervisors, to invite you, Chairman. And if you have a couple of minutes of spare time to join us that day, to let it be known to the individuals that are there that you stand on building, once again, the camaraderie amongst the community and our police department and our 911 emergency services. Thank you, and I'll leave you the details here. Be well.
Thank you.
Great.
Next speaker card I have is Cheryl Van Horn.
Good evening, council members and supervisors. My name is Michael Kreitz. I'm born and raised here in Modesto, California. I've worked on Vito's dad's ranch one time, helped him out with some electrical work. I'm a proud member of this society, and I love people around me. One thing to set out straight that I just wanted to come up, I'm unprepared. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I got a deferred 5 minutes, so I'm going to make it whatever I can. But a buddy of mine called me up tonight and said that, hey, you ought to come down to the supervisors meeting. I think I'm going to attend more of these too, because this is pretty good. And so he says, hey, they're having the you can speak on whatever you want, but basically I came down because of the rainbow story time at the library. And the thing about that is that we are called upon by our Father in heaven, Most High, to protect our children. And, children cannot make their own choices. We have an 18-year age limit. Some can pull away from their parents at 16 for certain circumstances, but for the most part, little children are at the library. 10 and under. What do they know? They only know what we teach them. Little children have feelings. I believe they have feelings. They're curious. They're wondering about, I'm sure they have thoughts about whatever. If they've ever been abused as a kid, then, they're going to have thoughts they shouldn't probably have. And, but for the most part, they do. They dream. I was once one. You all were once one as well. And, to throw stuff in their face that's, first of all, it's unmoral. And everybody knows that. Every law of the land of every nation ever to be, that ever was so far, has regarded that as either if it's not necessarily a sinful, unlawful act, or to a type of way of thinking, they've established it as a taboo, and it's not something that you do in the open. And if you do, that's usually the nations, like one of the speakers said already, that's the sign of a nation that's failing, soon going to fall. Everyone that has been already has. If you look at all the nations in history of old, any one of them that started getting corrupted and immoral and pulling away from, the Father God as we know Him, they turn into turmoil. They get taken over, and usually it's not by good people. It's by evil tyrants And some of us I don't know why people make certain decisions sometimes. I guess maybe they don't understand. I think there's a huge lack of understanding out there. But basically, I wanted to read this, and this came to me. So, in the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth. And on the sixth day, he says that, this is what he says. He says, then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, him and his son. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image, and in the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. And so that right there, that passage to me sets it really straight of who we all are. And there's no way any of us can get away from that. And is that my pastime? So that's what I wanted to leave off with. God expects us to obey him. And if you don't know who he is, pick up the Word of God and start reading it. And I'm sure some of you men up here have read them. But I know one thing. I see a group of men that's up here tonight. I don't see a woman. And you can't change yourself to what you want to be. You are who you are when you're born. You might be tempted at other things. But the fact of the matter means if you want to change yourself, that's called self-mutilation. And we shouldn't be teaching our kids that. And another one, just one quick thing. The rainbow, and I don't see this anymore, the rainbow has kind of been hijacked like a lot of other good, wholesome things in life. But the rainbow first came about in any written history ever in the Bible. The Word of God, it was a promise that God would not flood the earth again because of the sin of man. That's his promise to us. That's the reason why they're there. There wasn't even a rainbow before the flood. And now after the flood, the rainbow comes to let us know the promise of God that he'll never do that. But someday he says he's going to come back and cleanse it with fire. So I'd like to be, I personally, I want to be on the right side of God when that day comes.
Thank you,
God bless you all. Thank you for my time.
Dario Aldana Reyes, next speaker.
Buenas tardes, respetables presentes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Estoy acá porque hace aproximadamente unas horas recibí una llamada telefónica
I am here because several hours ago I received a telephone call
diciéndome que me hablaban del departamento de policía de Stockton,
letting me know that they were calling me from Stockton Police Department,
que era una persona que yo era una persona que había solicitado el servicio de masaje por medio de la red social.
They were saying that I had requested or solicited massages through internet or online,
Diciendo que ahora resultó que la mamá de esa persona era menor de edad.
saying that the mother of that person, claiming that the person is a minor,
Y que había pedido la orden de arresto de
And
todas
had-
las personas
and had requested a warrant for the arrest of every people that was involved,
que tuvieron contacto físico con ella
that
o,
had
o vía telefónica.
physical contact or contact by phone.
Y me dijeron de que para que no fuera arrestado
And they told
tenía-
me that in order to not get arrested,
tenía que pagar la cantidad de $5,000
I had to pay $5,000.
y luego recibir 6 clases de psicología.
And then I would have to attend 6 psychology classes.
Y yo empecé a dudar de que era la policía que me estaba hablando.
That's when I started to believe that it wasn't the police that was calling me.
Y ellos activaron supuestamente una alarma
And they supposedly said they activated an alarm
para que llegaran 19 oficiales por mí al lugar donde yo estuviera.
so that 11 or 19 police officers were going to go and arrest me wherever I was.
O si no quería ser arrestado forzalmente,
And if I didn't want to get arrested forcefully,
que voluntariamente me acercara a un departamento de policía más cercano
that I could come to the nearest police station and turn myself in.
y quedara en la línea.
¿Cómo que quedara?
Que siguiera en la línea.
Oh, but I had to remain on the line talking to them.
Te hice lo correcto, me alisté,
So I did what I had to do. I got ready.
pero en lo que venía en camino para el departamento de policía de acá de Modesto,
But on my way to the Modesto Police Department,
la llamada se cortó.
the call ended.
Y me presenté y me dijeron de que
And I went there and they said
tal vez podría ser una estafa.
that it was more likely than to be a scam.
Tengo el número acá por si
I have the number.
pueden investigar el número.
If you guys can investigate the number.
209
Do I repeat the number? 209. 209.
209 937
937
83
8377.
77. Y me dieron otro número para que me metiera a la web para que como confirmar que sí era del departamento de policía de Stockton que me hablaba.
And then las mismas personas que le hablaron son las que le dieron este otro número.
Sí, para que
Okay, so they also gave me another number saying I can go onto this website to confirm that they were legit. It was from the Stockton Police Department.
sí, el número es 209
And that number is 209
937
937
03
0377.
77. Era para confirmar de que sí
That
era
was
de-
to confirm that they were calling me from the Stockton Police Department.
Sí, nada más si pueden investigar el
He,
número.
he's just
para que-
asking to see if you guys can
porque
investigate
me
that
estaban exigiendo
number
$5,000
because they were wanting $5,000
para-
out of him
para retirar la orden de arresto.
to remove the warrant on his arrest.
If he doesn't mind leaving his contact information with you, then we can
Sure.
have somebody reach out to him.
Sí, puede dejarme sus datos personales para que alguien se comunique con usted.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker I have is Maritza. They didn't put their last name. If you could just state your last name for the record when you come up, please.
Hello, Honorable Board, and to all present here for your time and presence. My name is Maritza Romero. I live here in Modesto. I am the mother of 8, and my husband is a retired corrections officer, and he is the law. I think that the law is extremely important. I do think it's based on moral truth, and there can only be one truth. There's only one truth. Otherwise, it's adulterated or opinions. And being at the service of humanity, not only you as servants, us also, I think that at this time in our country, truth and integrity is so important. And most especially when it comes to our elections. Yes, we have these machines that were supposed to be more efficient for counting ballots, and of course, since they're electronic, boy, we should have known, those results in no time. But in serving our constituents, as we have heard today, our tax dollars are spending $30,000 on one machine. Yeah, I don't know how long they last, but if we have reports of so many mishaps, even if they're misgivings, us, as your constituents, our tax dollars, your tax dollars, are going to something that I consider not only to be a waste, but we, the people, are unsettled, feeling that we can't trust this system that is crucial to us all, regardless of belief, political views, etc. Another is when it comes to the issue with the readings, and the transgender ideologies being taught to the children, and again, using our tax dollars. And having 8 children and having a large family, we all have different thoughts, different beliefs, I would even say. Nonetheless, whether it may be people that have that belief, that preference, should we say, if I came into the library and wanted to teach my preferences or my ideology, be whatever it is that it is, would that be tolerated? So, as a matter of justice and respect, yes, we all want to be respected, again, for our beliefs. That's part of, our Constitution, right? We have those rights, those inalienable rights. While I have the right to choose how to raise my child as I see fit, and not only as I see fit, but it's my responsibility, right? I have that responsibility. And I think we all want to raise our children to be moral, just, truthful, in my opinion, God-fearing people, right? And so, in the same way that I wouldn't want people's beliefs imposed on my children, I don't think others should do that with other people's children, so, especially maybe in a public library, it would be parents that would be taking their children, right? But sometimes that occurs at schools, and I wouldn't be there, or maybe another parent wouldn't be there to know and see, what's happening. I mean, the next thing could be like what other kind of agenda could it be that I may not be aware of or approve of, So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. The next speaker card I have is Norma Hernandez.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Hoy tuve una junta con el jefe de policía
I had a meeting today with the chief of the Modesto Police Department
para hablar sobre cuando mi hijo fue víctima de crimen en el Palerio y por qué no lo cerraron.
to speak regarding when my son was
Es porque
shot at the Modesto Palladium.
la policía no hizo el trabajo correcto.
The police didn't do their job correctly.
Tampoco el investigador y los detectives que llevaron el caso.
The detectives and investigators didn't do their job correctly.
Yo soy la única que cuido a mi hijo.
I am the only one that takes care of my son.
Y yo les pido a ustedes que
And
me
I
den
ask
el
you
dinero
guys to give me the money
para un abogado civil y un abogado criminal para poder llevar el caso
so I
correcto.
can hire an attorney to take our case.
Civil y criminal el
A
abogado.
civil case and a criminal case.
No entiendo por qué ustedes me han negado todos los complaints que yo he metido tanto a la ciudad como al condado.
I do not understand why you guys have rejected all my claims that I've submitted to the city and the county.
Cuando yo he entregado todas las pruebas, fotos y videos para que se me paguen los daños que
When I have submitted all the evidence, pictures, videos, and everything so you guys can pay me all my damages.
Provecho ni el departamento del Cherry Hacker Rock han quebrado en mi apartamento.
Probation and Sheriff's Department on Hackett Road have broke into my apartment
Y han hecho arrestos ilegales en contra de mi hijo.
and have made illegal arrest against my son,
También llevándose su medicina de ansiedad.
taking his anxiety medication,
Y yo teniendo la receta conmigo.
and I had the prescription with me.
Cobraron $100,000 de fianza.
He had to get a bail bond to get him out,
Y pusieron que era droga.
and they said it was drugs.
Mi hijo tiene consejero de salud mental. No tiene
My
nada
s-
en su mente.
My son has a mental
Es bien
health
Edison, su consejero mental.
counselor that is helping him.
Tiene un doctor psiquiatra de
He,
aquí de
he
la Cima,
also
de
sees
Modesto.
a,
Wall.
a psychiatrist here on Sisk Road.
Y mientras ustedes no suelten un peso, no va a acabar el abuso.
And while you guys don't give me the money, the abuse isn't going to stop.
Con vergüenza y todo, les pido que suelten de su bolsa, ya que no quieren hacer pagar a la ciudad y al condado.
Because you guys haven't, I haven't got paid what I've been asking for the city and the county. Now I'm asking you guys out of your pocket to help me pay for it.
Hoy responsabilizo a Beatriz de estarme echando del departamento de récord de policía, de estarme echando a los criminales. Ahorita me amenazaron con matarme. Aquí traigo las placas.
Today I was threatened for my life. I do have the license plate to the car. I fully hold responsible Beatriz that works for the sheriff's department.
No, Modesto Police.
Oh, she works for Modesto Police Department.
Las placas son 8W.
The license plate of the person is 8WQ
XS5X598.
598.
Son dos pandilleros, una mujer y un
It's
hombre. Y lo que me hacían es esto. Yo soy una señora, soy cristiana.
I'm a Christian. These were two
Yo no tengo por qué aguantar los criminales que no se han
two young
arrestado.
people. It was a guy and a male and a female. I'm a Christian. I don't get into any problems.
Faltan 14 criminales de arrestar y 3 años y medio le dieron al criminal que balació a mi hijo
I'm
por la
still
espalda y lo dejó
waiting for them
paralítico para el
to
resto de su
arrest the
vida.
14 other guys that arrested that that shot my son. They only gave him 3.5 years, and he is paralyzed for
Ahora el
life.
jefe de policía está diciendo que mi hijo estaba afuera. Mi hijo estaba dentro del salón Palerio, pagó un ticket, lo sacaron los security para afuera
The
para
Modesto
matarlo.
police chief is now saying that my son was outside of the Palladium when he got shot. He was inside Palladium when they took him
Yo
out.
tengo los
and he
videos donde
got
mi hijo está
shot.
disfrutando el baile.
I have videos of when my son was inside Palladium just having fun.
Tengo 7 testigos diciendo que
I have
los de
7
seguridad lo sacaron.
witnesses saying
Nomás a él
security
solo.
took him out, just him by himself.
Le pusieron fecha ahora para matarlo y día.
They put a date, time, and a place of where he was going to get murdered.
Entregué la información de Alfredo Reyes Contreras, alias el Kid de Riverval. Modesto Police no quiso dar la orden para arrestarlo.
I gave the information on Alfredo Reyes
Contreras,
and I did give the
alias el
information,
Kid.
alias the kid, and I gave the information to Modesto Police Department.
Vende toda la droga que el Cherry, Modesto Police
He
y
did not
Riverval y
want
Hacker
to
Rock
submit a
quitan.
warrant for his arrest. He is a well-known drug dealer.
Es un narcotraficante que hace tratos desde México y la droga de aquí de California.
He's been selling drugs
Sheriffs y
from
policías.
Modesto all the way to Mexico to
Yo les pido el dinero a ustedes para agarrar el abogado
I
adecuado,
am asking
civil
you
y
guys for
criminal.
the money to get to hire 2 attorneys, a civil and a criminal,
Y
to
mostrar los videos donde mi hijo está dentro del salón de baile. Mostrar los testigos que yo
that way I
tengo.
can bring to court the pictures and evidence that I have that my son was inside the Palladium when he was
¿Y quién lo va a
taken out.
mantener?
Who's going to help support
¿Quién
him?
me va a mantener a mí que soy la
Who's
que
going
lo
to
cuido?
support me that I'm the one that takes care of
Mi hijo
him?
depende el 90% de
My
mí.
son depends 90%
No se puede
of
ni
me.
sentar.
He cannot sit on his own.
Se hace pipí y popó como un niño.
He does his necessities like a child. So
Ustedes no tienen hijos que
do
no
you
les
guys
está
not
importando.
have children? Do you guys not have kids that this doesn't?
¿Qué vamos a hacer?
you
Estoy
guys don't
cansada
care
por
about
2
this.
años de venir aquí y pedir
I have
ayuda.
been coming here for the past 2 years to ask for some help.
Esto pasó en noviembre 6 del 2021.
This happened ¿Noviembre qué? Perdón.
Noviembre 6 del
November 6,
2021.
2021.
Ok, en el 2022 se le dieron los cargos
In
al único que
2022, the one person
que andaba presumiendo que
got
balaceó a mi hijo
charges,
por la espalda.
which was out there bragging about how he
Yo
had
se lo
shot my
entregué al
son.
detective Morenito.
I was the one
de
that
Modesto.
turned him into the Modesto detective.
¿Y sabe qué fue lo que me dijo? Tú no te andes metiendo. Soy su
And
madre, ¿por qué no me voy a meter?
And he told me I shouldn't butt in on this. How am I not? He is my son.
Ya tengo más nombres de los asesinos, fueron 15, más
I
el
ha-
que pagó para matarlo.
I have more names. There was a total of 15, including the one that paid to have him shot.
Yo pienso que ustedes si les hubieran hecho igual a sus hijos andarían como yo.
If this had happened to one of your son, you guys would be the same as I
Ahora
am.
yo digo, hacemos una oración aquí para que la junta salga bien. ¿De qué sirve? Si cuando creemos en Dios no permitimos estas cosas de corrupción.
Okay, so at the beginning of the meeting, we all do a prayer. How are we letting this happen when we're praying? You know, God wouldn't permit something like this to happen.
Yo fui difamada de prostituta de paga, que dice el
I was
jefe de policía.
defamed, saying I was a prostitute, said the Modesto police.
Que no hay nada. Beatriz de Récord me dice que después de 3 años no pueden sacar nada. Pero no me
Beatrice
dejan
told
en
me
paz.
there is, after 3 years, there is no evidence.
Tengo mis cartas de que
I have
soy
my letters
servidora de la
that I'm a
iglesia por
server
años,
of
buena
God, and
conducta
I
moral.
have had
Nunca
good
he sido
conduct. I have
arrestada.
never been arrested.
Tengo, no sé qué van a hacer. Yo
I
no
don't know
tengo
what you're
por qué
gonna
estar
do.
batallando con criminales nomás porque hay tanta corrupción.
I shouldn't have to deal with this, with all the corruption.
Mi troca estaba laciada, chocada, nos acaban de quebrar
her
un
truck
poco. ¿Hasta
is-
cuándo van a parar? ¿Hasta que
was
yo mate
damaged.
o nos maten?
We have our BHRS director, Tony, if she could please speak to him. I know she has a lot to bring up, but we want her to get help, and he's there to help.
Gracias.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, that wraps up our public comment cards. Is there any members of the public that didn't turn in a card that would like to speak? All right, seeing none, then I'm going to close public comment and start with our public hearings. So our first public hearing.
Consent calendar.
Sorry. Apologize. Consent calendar. So before the board takes any action on the consent calendar, does anyone in the audience wish to provide public comment on any matter on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board. Any board members wishing to pull anything for further discussion? If not, then I would welcome a motion.
Move to approve items on consent.
All right. Second. All right, I got a motion by Supervisor Chance Condon, and second by Supervisor Terry Withrow. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that passes all consent calendar items. And next, it brings us to public hearings.
I think we all do.
Yes, we have a conflict under the Levine Act on item 7.1 with regard to Central Valley Growers. Supervisor Chance Condit received a contribution of $250. Under the Levine Act, it's anything over $250. So this one would not normally create a conflict, but Supervisor Condit believes it's out of abundance of caution that he will not participate in this decision and therefore will recuse himself. Man, that was hard to get out. Wow. Yeah. So there we go.
Supervisor Withrow.
We'll just slow roll because, yeah, we need Terry.
All right, well, Supervisor Withrow will be joining us momentarily, but before, as he is approaching, you can start the presentation. And conducting the presentation to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation approval for development agreement for Central Valley Growers will be conducted by Erica Ignacio, and Jeremy Ballard.
All right. Good evening, Chair Grewal, members of the board, CEO Hayes, and County Council Bowes. I am Jeremy Ballard. I am Senior Planner with the Planning Department, here to present the new development agreement for Central Valley Growers LLC. The request before you is to adopt a new development agreement for an existing commercial cannabis cultivation operation that will expire on August 16th of this year. The project site is located at 3501 Howard Road between California Interstate 5 and California Highway 33 in the Wesley area. The operation was approved to cultivate up to 22,000 square feet of cultivation canopy in 3 phases, but has not progressed past phase 1, which consists of up to 5,000 square feet of canopy. And up there in the top left corner here, let me use laser pointers, where the current development of the cultivation operation is today. So based on the required fees of the development agreement for cultivation, Central Valley Growers, over the life of their current development agreement, have paid the county a total $81,250 in community benefit rate fees. At the time the operation commenced, Central Valley Growers were only obligated to pay a single quarter of their community benefit contribution fees prior to the program suspension, and that total amount was $1,727. They are current on their fees owed to the county, but they did make 8 late payments, accruing $2,062 in interest during that period. They've also completed their annual inspection for 2022, completing all corrections required, and were initially issued a commercial cannabis activity permit on December 1st, 2022, and they have been reissued that permit in 2023 and 2024. Lastly, the operation has generated 0 calls for service to the county sheriff's department. So with the expiration of the original development agreement, staff has proposed a new DA that will consist of a 2-year term with an automatic termination clause to correspond with potential tax passage in November. Staff has proposed the same mixed light cultivation rates as the original development agreement, to consist of $25,000 annually for the phase 1 canopy size of 5,000 square feet. If the operation were to expand into the phase 2 and phase 3, the rates would adjust accordingly based on the development agreement's tiered rate size for canopy size. These fees and other terms included in this new development agreement would be consistent with the most recent board-adopted development agreements for commercial cannabis of operations of similar activity and size. So the county's planning commission held a public hearing for the proposed new development agreement on June 20th, 2024. During the public hearing, no one spoke in opposition or support of the request. Ultimately, the planning commission did recommend approval of the development agreement, including all the required findings, on a vote of 6-0. So with the planning commission's recommendation of approval, staff is recommending that the board of supervisors conduct a public hearing, find the project exempt from CEQA, and instruct staff to file the notice of exemption, find the development agreement consistent with county code and government code for adoption of a new development agreement. Additionally, staff is recommending that the chair authorize and execute the proposed development agreement, and the board waive the reading and adopt a new ordinance, which will rescind the previous ordinance and adopt this new ordinance for this development agreement. And then lastly, staff is recommending the board to authorize the clerk to record the executed development agreement and file a notice of termination for the previously adopted development agreement. That concludes my presentation. Eric and I are here for questions, and the applicant's representative is here as well if there's any questions. Thank you.
Any questions by members of the board? Seeing none, I'm going to take it out to the public. Any members of the public wanting to comment on this item or any questions? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for a possible motion.
Motion to approve all staff recommendations. 9.
Second.
I got a motion by Supervisor Keyes, a second by Supervisor Buck-Condit. Please all indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
All right, motion passes 3-1.
Thank you.
Right. So let Supervisor Condit know. Next item, while Supervisor Condit's coming in, is another public hearing to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to adopt new terms and conditions to remedy non-compliance of the adopted development agreement for the People's Remedy. Again, it'll be the presentation will be conducted by Jeremy Ballard.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening again, Chair Grewal, members of the board, CEO Hayes, and County Council Bowes, Jeremy Ballard. And so I'm here to present the presentation of the cancellation of development agreement for the People's Remedy. And before we get into this, into the actual particulars of that, I'm going to have hand it over to Erica, who's going to kind of give a little overview of the commercial cannabis program here in the county.
Good evening. For the public's benefit, we would like to provide some context to the program. In November of 2016, voters passed Prop 64, the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, which made it legal for individuals to use and grow marijuana for personal use. It also implemented the sales and taxation on commercial marijuana cannabis effective July 1st of 2018. In September of 2017, the board approved the development of a commercial cannabis strategy for retail, cultivation, and other activities. In 2017, the board adopted an allowance strategy of 61 licenses with a maximum of 7 retail businesses, established a cannabis activities ordinance on zoning, fees, and application process, and established an enforcement strategy to remove illegal cannabis activities. It's a revenue source to fund the county's enforcement strategy to eradicate illegal cannabis activities in the county, which was projected to bring approximately $3 million. In February of 2019, the board held an initial public hearing and began approving DAs for commercial cannabis businesses. As of July 16, there are 15 board-approved development agreements that are active. 9 development agreements have been mutually canceled. There are 26 licenses active, 35 licenses remaining. Of the 26 active licenses, you have 5 retail, and this includes the People's Remedy, 9 cultivation, mixed light or indoor, 4 nursery, 6 distribution, and 2 manufacturing. Wanting to give a little bit of an overview on the commercial cannabis program. The committee is made up of code enforcement, county council, planning, and at times the sheriff's department also participates. The CEO's office maintains oversight of the DAs with support from the committee. There are weekly meetings that are taking place to discuss operators and their status, oversees and enforces consistent policies, and issues notice of default and refers the DA to the county's planning director for action in accordance with the development agreement and county code. What you see in front of you is the default process that is outlined in Section 15 of the Board of Supervisors approved development agreement. This flow chart details the process when an operator becomes non-compliant and their path to compliance or termination proceedings. I will now hand over the presentation to Jeremy so he can provide more in-depth information.
Okay, so again, this item before you is to consider the cancellation of an adopted development agreement of a commercial cannabis retail business, which has not paid the required fees in full as required under the terms of the development agreement. The business is located at 1119 Lone Palm Avenue between Woodland and Kansas Avenue in the Modesto area. The site is surrounded by a mix of commercial and industrial and non-retail commercial uses in all directions. State Route 99 is to the east, and scattered single-family dwellings are to the southwest. The site is located within the City of Modesto's LAFCO adopted sphere of influence. The retail business is located within a 2,400 square foot portion of a 12,000 square foot warehouse building. The Board of Supervisors approved the original use permit and development agreement on August 25th, 2020. So, along with the outlining the operating conditions and procedures for the operation, the 2 main components of each development agreement for commercial cannabis operators was the community benefit rate fee, which was collected to be used for enforcement of illegal cannabis activities throughout the county, and then the community benefit contribution collected to be distributed to local community charities and to be utilized for public improvement projects. The annual community benefit rate fee is paid quarterly and by type. So for the People's Remedy originally, their community benefit rate fees consisted of a range of $600,000 to $700,000 annually, or 8% of gross receipts, whichever was greater. The rates were based on revenue projections that were provided to the county by the operator, similar to how rates were established for the other retail operations in the county. The operator in the county agreed to amend the community benefit rate flat rate payment amount to $331,000 and $270,000 annually, or 8% of gross receipts, whichever was greater. The flat rate was based on a formula that averaged revenues of the People's Remedy for the years 2020 and 2021. This amendment was approved by the Board of Supervisors in July of 2022. In total, since 2019, the People's Remedy has paid the county a total of $2,259,914 for retail activities. Although no longer collected directly by the county, their community benefit contribution required ranges from $61,200 to $71,000 annually, and the People's Remedy during that period, paid the county a total amount of $110,869. So subsequent to the development agreement amendment, the operator began making only partial payments to the county starting in quarter 2 of 2022. The partial payments were made in each quarter, with the last partial payment made on April 30th, 2024. As the balance accrued, the partial payments were applied to previous outstanding balances first. So currently, the People's Remedy owes the county $289,851. Their next payment of $82,800 is due on July 30th, 2024, and additional interest fees would be calculated and included if the balance remains outstanding. So based on the terms of the development agreement, specifically Section 15, the operator has been notified of their failure to pay in full for each quarter. Without full payment of the balance owed, the operator is now in a state of default and has been referred to the planning director for action in accordance with both Title 22 of the County Code and Section 15.6.2 of the adopted development agreement. So in accordance with Chapter 220820 of the County Code, cancellation of a development agreement for noncompliance may be requested by the county, provided a public hearing is held in conformance with state law. Additionally, Government Code Section 658.1 allows cancellation of a development agreement if it can be found the terms of the DA have not been met by the applicant. Also as stated in the County Code, Chapter 22, during the public hearing, the operator must demonstrate compliance with the development agreement. If not shown, the Board of Supervisors may cancel the development agreement or may request that new terms and conditions be adopted to remedy the noncompliance. So the item was originally scheduled to be heard by the Planning Commission on February 14th of 2024. However, staff requested a continuance for additional time to review a proposal made by the operator to cure their outstanding debt. The proposal included a payment plan to address the outstanding fees and then a subsequent development agreement amendment to reduce the flat rate fee. Staff reviewed and declined the proposal due to the amendment to their development agreement, which would reduce the flat rate fee because the operator was not fully in compliance with their development agreement at that time. Nor would the payment plans be completed by the time the new fees would be established. Thus, staff requested that the cancellations proceedings to continue. And also just a reminder that current policy with the county's commercial cannabis program has been that no development agreement be taken to the board for approval for an amendment if the operator is not in compliance. So the public hearing was held on March 7th, 2024 with the county's planning commission. Correspondence from the operator outlining their proposal was submitted and distributed to the planning commission. During the public hearing, 7 people spoke against the cancellation, including the operator, Mark Bonicelli, and his representative, Zach Dravon. A discussion of the full comments received during this public hearing can be found in full in the agenda report before you. After discussion, the Planning Commission found the People's Remedy to be a material breach of their development agreement. However, on a vote of 5-1, they recommended that the board adopt new terms and conditions to remedy the non-compliance instead of a cancellation. I'm going to throw this back over to Erica for a few more slides.
So a brief summary on the operator. The DA was approved by the Board of Supervisors on August 25th of 2020, and it is due to expire on September 24th of 2025. The retail operator has not received their CCA pending past due fees. Their current state license expires on November 20th of 2022. Currently, their DA states 8% or $82,800 quarterly, which amounts to $331,200 annually, and it is the greater of the two, the 8% or the quarterly fee. Their last DA amendment was completed in 2022 and adjusted the quarterly rate from the $150,000 down to $82,800 on a quarterly basis. Since then, the operator has been late 15 times. The operator has requested an amendment to the DA stating decline in revenues. The timeline you see in front of you is what has transpired since their request to meet to discuss an amendment. It all started in October. There was some additional discussion, followed up with the operator and requesting a follow-up to the email that was sent to them on October 20th, which summarized the meeting that took place on October 18th. And then you can see from there that the operator was waiting to meet with the Board of Supervisors, requested a follow-up again, and by November 22nd, On January 17th, reminded the operator of the DA referral to the planning to consider default and asking them to submit payment by February 15th to avoid having to go before the Planning Commission. I do want to highlight the February 7th, 2024 date, as this is when the staff received a proposal to resolve the past due balance. And again, just reiterating what Jeremy said, the proposal was not accepted because the payment plan was submitted in parallel to a request to amend the DA's community benefit rate down to a rate commensurate with 8% of gross receipts to be in effect in Q1 of 2024, and a request to add other activities, such as cultivation and distribution. The program has been consistent with its policy to not present to the board any DA amendments for operators that are not in compliance. Furthermore, the request to apply the new rate to Q1 2024 was not attainable, as the request to make any substantial revisions to the DA requires a public hearing before the Planning Commission to then be taken to the Board of Supervisors. This was a process that would not be attainable in the quarter requested, and policy has been, again, to not make any change retroactive. The request to make the fee commensurate with 8% of gross receipts was also not within program policy. The program uses an established formula to calculate the new flat rates. Since the request did not adhere to policy, which was all shared with the operator back in October, the program declined the proposal and proceeded with the cancellation. The slide provides you a snapshot of the reported revenues by the operator to the State of California Department of Tax and Fees Administration. You will also see the total that was due based on the gross receipts, any credits, what had been paid by the operator, and the difference in the fees of what was due. The last column shows the cumulative balance as of it is now.
So, to conclude, as outlined in the agenda report before you, the Planning Commission has found the operator to be in material breach of the development agreement, but has recommended the board adopt new terms and conditions to remedy their noncompliance. Subsequently, staff is recommending that the Board of Supervisors first conduct a public hearing. If the board decides that new terms and conditions are to be adopted to remedy the noncompliance, staff is asking that the public hearing be continued to a specific date to allow staff time to negotiate those terms and conditions with the operator and return with recommendations for the board to adopt. However, if the board decides to cancel the development agreement immediately, staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors find the People's Remedy in material breach of their terms of the development agreement, find that the cancellation is exempt from CEQA and consistent with Chapter 2208 of the County Code and Government Section 65865.1 of the Government Code, and approve the cancellation and order the closure of the business within 30 days of the repealing of the adopted ordinance, subject to inspection by the county. We're also asking to waive the reading and adopt an ordinance to rescind the original adopted ordinances for both development agreements, and lastly, file a notice of development agreement cancellation of the adopted development agreement with the county's clerk recorder's office. And so that concludes our presentation, and we are here for questions.
Great. Any questions by members of the board? Thank you for the presentation. All right, seeing none, I'm going to take it out to the public. Any members of the public like to speak on this item?
Good evening, guys. How you doing? Intense night tonight, huh? So I just want to say, I started this whole thing with Carol Whiteside, God rest her soul, and getting this whole thing legalized. So I was the first open. So just a couple of things I want to bring to light. Since I was the first open, I made the most money, but now all these shops have opened up. But me personally, I've paid the county over $2.3 million, more than any other cannabis company in the county. And my numbers are based off of the quarterly minimums. It's based off of 2019 numbers. No one's paying taxes based off of 2019 numbers. That quarterly 82,000, that's 30% of my revenue right now. And I've been paying what I collect at the register. It's governed by the DCC. I can't control that. You guys set the rate at 8%. We talk to them, or they go over my platform, Meadow. So it's not like I'm not paying you guys. I'm paying everything I collect. I'm not on payroll. I'm doing everything I can to save this. All I'm asking for is a payment plan. The IRS gives us a payment plan. The state gives us a payment plan. And I've overpaid that 8% by $400,000. So, it's not like I'm keeping money or pocketing any money. You guys can look at my books. I'm not taking any personal income from this. I'm literally just trying to save the jobs from my employees. So please, give that some consideration, as well as I've paid millions and millions of dollars, way above everybody else in the cannabis. I'm not a criminal. You guys know me. You see me around town. I'm a single father. This isn't a cannabis thing right now. It's just a business thing. It's drowning. 30% of my revenue I cannot sustain. So, just please take that into consideration. Help me work out a payment plan, something. And the payment plan I offered was, pretty good. But right now it's tanking. The market's tanking. I'm competing with 20 other dispensaries now. It's just not feasible to pay almost 90 grand a quarter. That's almost $1,000 a day just to be operating. There's no way I can continue like that. So that's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Chair Graywell, members of the board, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. Zach Trevon on behalf of the People's Remedy. Just to piggyback on a couple of comments Mark made and add to this conversation, we are asking for the board to adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation to allow us to revisit potential options for the resolution of this outstanding debt. I would remind the board that when similar matters have come before you, DAs for cannabis retailers proposing by staff to be shut down effectively, there was a flat-out refusal by that operator and failure to pay anything to the county for a period of 2 years. That's not the case here. As Mark stated, he has been paying quarter over quarter the 8% of his revenues he's collecting. However, the unfortunate situation that we found ourselves in is those flat fee minimum community benefit payments invariably have exceeded that 8%. And in order to keep the business running as a going concern and continue the ability to pay something to the county, pay his employees, he's paid what he can. I do appreciate staff demonstrating the original correspondence. This is also not for lack of diligence in trying to wrap our arms around this situation. When we sent correspondence to staff in October of 2023, it was originally an offer in compromise to reduce the then outstanding debt, as well as amend our development agreement to reduce the fees, as well as add other uses to our CUP. I do think that when we, should it be the pleasure of the board, come back in front of you with a proposed resolution, it is critical that we do have the opportunity to adjust the flat fees down to so where it is closer. The chicken and the egg, the rock and the hard place situation is we've been unable to submit any sort of application that would be entertained by staff to remedy the issue of continually becoming underwater based on the adopted policy of staff not entertaining applications while the operator is in arrears. So we're continuing to get further and further underwater without a real ability to get our arms around it. Now, to add to that, I would say that development agreements in other jurisdictions have completely eliminated the flat fee minimum payments. As well, those that have maintained flat fee minimum payments, such as in the city of Patterson, the quarterly flat fee is about $21,000, right? $7,000 a month in Patterson. There is a gross differential between the revenue that's being collected now, as Mark mentioned, as one of 36 to 40 retailers across the region, to where when he originally was approved, he was one of 6 or 7 in the county. And even at the time of the amendment to the original development agreement, there was fewer operators at that time than there are now. So we are asking the board to please take all of this into consideration. You have an operator that, notwithstanding these flat fee community benefit rate payments, has an otherwise viable business. He has made an earnest effort to continue to compensate the county for the privilege of being able to operate. And I think taking all that into consideration, especially with the tax coming to us in November that proposes to completely eliminate the flat fee minimum payments, and I think that is in recognition by staff and yourselves of it being an infeasible financial structure. We're going to be getting rid of those. So it doesn't make sense to throw the baby out with the bathwater, eliminate an otherwise viable, benefit rate paying business where the very thing that has caused us to come into the situation is being eliminated. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I appreciate the time, and we appreciate your thoughtful consideration on this. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Any questions for Zach? All right, any other members of the public? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for any questions, further comments? All right. I would like to comment on this. I appreciate what you brought up, Mark, that you've paid millions of dollars, but it's also an agreement that you did with the county. And, in business, you go sometimes and it doesn't work out like you originally intended. And you have to see the county's perspective where, we budgeted for so much money, revenue coming in, and we have expenditures that we have to pay for as far as public safety, our county council, CEO staff, and those numbers have gone down significantly as well. And one of the options is to negotiate with staff and see if there's any options. But I think to have this negotiation to even take place, I think the good faith gesture and the right thing to do is to be brought up current. It doesn't feel fair for other operators that are also behind to have this conversation when you're have money still due in arrears. So I would like to, if we did go the route of trying to negotiate something with staff, is to be brought up current of the $289,851 that's due to the county, and working with staff on what the timeliness of that is and when it can be done, because I don't think it sets a good precedent if we're having these conversations with hundreds of thousands of dollars due to the county. So if that's something that's amenable to all of you, then I would support directing staff to negotiate, but it also can't just be a buying time tactic. I know you had based on one of the slides, you had a process or an agreement that you wanted to put in place back in February, and that didn't work out. But I think if we're going to proceed forward, and I just speak for myself, speak on my behalf, I just feel that everything has to be brought current. And Zach, I get the chicken and egg scenario where things continue to compile, and that can obviously, if the tax passes, that situation, there would still be a minimum due at that point, regardless of the percentage or the minimum, whichever is higher. But in this case, I think the only way to have this discussion is to bring your current outstanding balance to good terms with staff, and that's what I would, be supportive of. I understand. I know it's an industry that's been hit hard, and in lieu of canceling your DA today, that would be one thing that I'd be supportive of, is if we could bring the amount current, and working with staff on what those dates are to make that happen.
And I would like us to maybe explore a payment plan. I do think a payment plan is fair. As mentioned, I mean, the IRS, the Board of Equalization, the tax board for the state of California, they work out payment plans, and I think that's more than fair. I do think that we have a tax measure that's coming up in November. We're going to see what the voters of Stanislaus County decide. But I want to work with Mark. I want to work with the folks in the industry to try to get them solvent. They provide a service here in the county. They provide a resource. A lot of folks obviously partake for the healing and the wellness of those centers. And I just think it is absolutely fair that we try to meet them halfway and have them meet us halfway and trying to come up with a fair and reasonable payment plan.
I don't know where we'll go with the motion. I mean, we can ask other board members to weigh in. My only concern, with all due respect to my colleague, is with the payment plan, I just feel that every month there's more money due. And so if you're working on the payment plan, and then as you can see in the last slide, that there's another 80,000 due again in July. So I just feel that there's other burdens that are going to continue to accrue. So if you have the payment plan, and then you have the monthly burdens that are coming, financial obligations that come up, I think that we'll be in this situation again in 3 to 6 months. And so that's a concern of mine, but again, that's a conversation that staff can have, but my preference would still be in getting a zero balance. And again, I understand working with them, Supervisor Condit, I don't want to see any business go down, but I just feel that if there's a burden, financial burden every month, and you're already behind, I think it just further extends that, but
No, and again, no disrespect taken. I would rather get something than completely put these gentlemen out and get zero for nothing. That's all. I just think we should work with these guys, because if we don't establish a payment plan, they might completely go under, and then we don't have anything to show for it. So as long as they're making consistent payments, and again, that has to be done. I mean, we need you guys to meet us halfway, but as long as they're making consistent payments and making right on that, I would rather that happen than for Mark to close, and then we're just kind of spinning in the wind there. That was the only point I was making.
So, I really like you, Mark. Everything you said up here about what you've done, you've always been extremely square with in every conversation I've ever had, and I appreciate that. This is a real conundrum here, most of them, because the one business that we actually shut down, there really was no option, right? There wasn't. So here we're stuck between making payments. I have to agree with the chairman in that if you want to get a development agreement, because you still, if we go forward and the tax doesn't pass, if we don't pay off the chicken or the egg argument, if you don't get this paid off, we have to go forward to make you viable by doing a new DA and asking for relief, because I would agree that you are just going to get further behind because your revenues aren't increasing, and trying to get us to a point where we can not change our practice for one person. And again, this is one of the more difficult decisions I've made in quite some time, only because you've been fair. Like you said, you're a good operator, and the circumstances are that it's a declining revenue for everyone. So some people have been able to withstand that component, but I would agree with the chairman that if we don't cure the cumulative balance and get you on the right path, I don't see you catching up. It's going to gather. I see this in farming when I get a loan. Sometimes we sell property to get out of this problem because it becomes too much of a burden, for lack of a better word. Inside my mind, I think making payments is okay, but the payment plan, I don't know how you catch up. And us curing with just wiping debt off sets the precedent for every other organization we've dealt with. I mean, every other business person we've dealt with. And I don't think that's right at this point. I wish we had the tax. We've talked about this. We tried twice. It didn't work because there were a couple of tax issues against it. Knowing we probably should have gone forward with it, because this would all be a moot point. Everyone would be paying exactly what they're supposed to pay based on a revenue source. And so those are my thoughts. But I'm willing to give you time. It's not an issue about today making this decision, as long as everyone works in good faith.
How about we give them till November? I'm just saying that's when the election is.
It is, but how do we, by November, this number is,
I'm just,
yeah.
And that's just when the election is, we'll know whether or not the voters will want a flat tax across the board. I just would hate to lose the revenue, because I know if his business goes out, there might be a chance where we don't get anything on our end at all.
I guess that, again, we're just talking out scenarios, but I guess that's true with any of the businesses. I mean, the previous business whose DA we canceled, we're almost out $1.3 million that we never got back, and I don't think it's a sustainable argument or a negotiation tactic where it's if you don't give us anything, then we're out zero. Sometimes it's better just to say, okay, then if you're not succeeding, then we might be out for the short term, but now we're not spending more money, more county resources, more staff time to try to save that amount. Then it's just an amount that we write off on our books. I mean, outside of the previous DA that we canceled and this DA, that's roughly $1.6 million that the county's owed on back fees from operators, and that's a concern, and it's not a sustainable method of negotiating with the fact that, obviously $289,000 for the county, we have costs to cover that we've incurred as well, but if we just go point of negotiation with everyone that, something's better than zero. In some circumstances it is. In some circumstances, you have to stick with the processes that have been put in place to get these fees. So that's where Zach, I know you keep indicating I'm talking, and I hope you have something that can prove us wrong otherwise, but that's where.
It's not my intention to approach again to prove you wrong, Supervisor. I do want to address a couple of the scenarios that you brought up. One is that potential payment plans that we are considering to propose to staff, should that be something that the board would entertain, do take into account prospective deficiencies between our 8%, which we would continue to pay, in addition to an additional amount over a period of time to address the existing deficiency and any deficiencies that we may anticipate to accrue. And I would venture to say, Tom, you correct me if I'm wrong, there are means of entering into a parallel contractual arrangement with the business that could continue on past November and obligate us to the contractual terms to satisfy the debt accrued to this point and any debt that may continue to accrue even through a payment plan. It's our intention, in parallel with asking your grace to allow our business to continue, to make the county whole. We are not asking for a haircut, although we may appreciate and enjoy forgiveness of debt. We understand that that is not a likely or feasible option for the county. What we are asking for is an opportunity to enter into an alternative arrangement that we can feasibly live up to, so that we are not continually defaulting on an agreement and coming back to you and asking for more and more. That is not our intention.
And I would defer to staff to answer some of those questions. Again, we've heard from Mark and Vito and Chance. We've all said we want you to succeed, but there's certain processes that have been placed in staff. So I'd rather defer to them to answer some of those questions because again, we don't want to set precedent for other operators that are also struggling. Obviously, we're seeing that this industry is struggling, and there's a lot of people that have back payments that we're constantly doing this and then setting a certain standard for someone and then a certain for someone. So I think there has to be some uniformity in the process. So I would defer to staff to see if any of that's possible before we make this motion.
I'll let you let Buck talk first.
Well,
Let him go first.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
No,
I saw
absolutely.
Jody getting ready to say something.
The balance needs to be cured before we enter into a new DA. That's my opinion. I think that's the way we ought to go. And if it doesn't, I'm ready to make the motion on the cancellation right now. So if it needs to go back to staff for negotiations, more talks to try to figure that out, I'm willing to make that motion. But if the balance is not going to be cured during that time, then I'm ready to make the motion on the cancellation.
So,
Sure. First of all, this is, I'm just going to repeat what I can't believe we're doing this. I can't believe we continue to spend staff time on these type of things. It's frustrating as hell that we're in this spot. So just that being said, okay, and I know that's a broken record, but that's just the reality of it. Here we are again, going through this at the expense of a lot of other time that businesses we could be working on. So that being said, Mark, I love you. I think you're a good guy. And as Vito said, you're a good operator. You're in my district, and I've seen how you work as far as these operations. You're one that and I think the world of your landlord, who we lost, and I miss him every day. But so that being said, of all these, the last one I want to see anything bad happen to is Mark Ponicelli. But with that being said, I think we do have to figure out a way to get this worked out and get this debt worked out. And I think, Mark, you got to figure out some way to get this thing cured.
All I was asking for is 2-year payment plan. It's $10,000 a month. I can put $25,000 that takes into consideration anything that I would go in arrears, the difference. I'm just-
Can't really have the conversation sitting there. And I don't know if we're entertaining payment plans right now, so I don't know if that's the ideal scenario to have that. I think the discussion on hand right now is.
Should let Terry finish his
Yeah,
comments.
first
Yeah.
let Terry finish his
Yeah, that's fine.
comments, and then if he has
So,
any questions
yeah.
for you, but.
So I just, if some way we can, and again, well, love to see this go back to staff and figure out a way to make this, but I don't see forgiveness of the $289,000.
I'm not asking for forgiveness, but if I could just get on some type of payment plan that's, 1 year, 2 year, I can do that. But, $90,000 on top of the $300,000 due at the month, I mean, that's impossible. But if I could get on a year, a 12-month, a 24-month, that I can do, I can work, I can hustle. But anything else, I mean, I don't see why I would get canceled when I've paid so much, way more than all the other. I haven't gotten any trouble. You guys know I'm squeaky clean and do everything by the book. I don't know why you would cancel getting the $230. You guys know I'll pay it. I live up to my word. I have since day one.
Thank you, Mark. I don't think we could have this discussion right now on the dais as far as payment plans. And right now, the issue we have on hand is if we're going to cancel the DA or if we're going to go into a payment plan. But if you're already indicating that you can't pay the $289, I think that gives a lot of us something to ponder. But
Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to just ask for some further clarification from the board as we enter conversations, if that's what the motion is that carries this evening, as we enter conversations with the operator. One of the key issues that really hasn't had much conversation is that the operator has requested an additional amendment to their development agreement. Right now, we have kind of a set amount that's been described on the screen as part of our ongoing dialogue with the operator. They've also pointed to additional reductions in revenue, which would, if they were current on their payments, would qualify for us to bring and recommend an amendment to their development agreement, which would further reduce the amount that they owe each quarter. However, we have implemented a standard with all operators that they must be current before that is brought. So if this board would like us to adopt a different policy where we pursue amendments to DAs while operators are not current, then that would be a new policy, and we would want that direction. In addition, the calculation that we use to make those amendments is we look at the last 2 calendar years of revenues, and we essentially average those out, and we take about 75% of that times 8%. It's a whole formula, but that's what we've done. We've done that consistently with any other operators and the development amendment agreements. If the board wishes us to be using a different calculation, we would want to have that policy direction here as well. I think we're free to and completely willing and interested in working with the operator outside of this process to find a suitable solution here. However, those 2 policies have been in place. They've been subject to other operators as well. If the board wants a change, we want that direction.
What is the
members of the board wanting to?
What is the number?
Can we give staff a chance to go back one more time and see if Mark can give you a chance to figure out how you can come up, come up with $289,000 is what I'm saying, to be able to bring in a partner, like any business we would do when you're in that spot and you think there's still a viable business, and you need some additional working capital, but I don't know how much time that we want to do that. Again, we got to be consistent with everybody, and so we've got to have the debt cured. And
I think Erica can speak to some of the timelines. I know, like Jody we had talked about that there are certain timelines, because again, it's accruing, but I guess the benefit you get out of, if you pay the $289 is there's a decrease in your obligation, which hopefully helps you to stay current until the tax passes. But I think as far as changing policies, again, it's to the discretion of the entire board, but I would have a hard time changing any policies right now, especially when we have a tax measure going in the next 120 days and see how that plays out. But I don't think it's fair to be changing policies right now where we've been pretty consistent. So I mean, if if the direction to negotiate with staff, I think we've been all pretty consistent that it would have to have the 289,000. And I can speak for myself, I would be really, I guess, discouraged if this is just a way to buy time and then eventually it ends up being that you can't pay the 289 and we've given another 30 to 45 days and let you out of the cancellation of the DA. I guess at that point, then there's not much discussion to be had after that. So just like Supervisor Withrow says, if you can come up with some additional capital, partnership, whatever it takes, but I think the balance has to be clear. Timelines, I think staff's going to be more than willing to try to accommodate, but I don't think you mentioned kind of off the cuff when you were talking there like 2 years. If that's the case, I don't think that's happening. Yep. All right. Well, do we proceed forward, or any questions for staff that any members have?
I'm still willing to give them some time to work it out with staff. What if the DA was redone based on the 2-year average? Do you have the number?
It would be approximately, the flat rate would be reduced approximately 44,000 and change.
From 82?
From the 82,800. And in order for it to take effect in this quarter, which is what they were asking, the debt would have to be cleared, just working backwards. The last Board of Supervisors meeting in this quarter is on September 17th, and keeping in mind that we have to schedule a public hearing before the Planning Commission, followed by a public hearing to the Board of Supervisors. Give or take, the debt would have to be cured by July 24th.
For a September hearing?
Mm-hmm.
And that number's somewhere in the ballpark. Some are higher, some are lower, but that would be the high end of what you're paying now, right? What you've been making payments on? Okay.
And again, that's why I think we should leave it open-ended, let staff get with Mark, come up with a payment plan. Again, I think, is it 2 years, is it 6 months, is it a year from now? I don't know. I just think we should be reasonable and flexible. I would hate for him to have to close his doors, but come up with a payment plan that's good for both parties. I mean, Mark is not asking for debt forgiveness. I'm certainly not advocating for the debt forgiveness, but he wants to make our organization whole, and we should do what we can to help him along the way.
Do I have possible motion? Somebody would like to formulate a motion?
I think the only motion that's going to pass is that I make a motion that we send it back to staff. I think it's clear with the majority at this point that he's going to have to cure or find some way. I don't want to set a timeline, but I would hope that in the next 30 days you could report back to us for sure, or brief us individually as to how discussions are going. Is that?
Tom, was there a technical issue with continuing the public hearing, though, and a need to do that for any reason?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, is with where we are right now in the process, is there an issue in continuing the meeting? We would need to continue it to a date certain if questions are still left to be answered. In other words, if the board wants to consider the result of the negotiations, if the board were to direct staff as to what they wanted to see in this process. For example, if the board was interested in making a direction to staff that this development agreement is canceled contingent upon the operator paying in full by a certain date, that would not need to come back. But if what you wanted to do was to direct staff to go negotiate a payment plan, then that would need to come back to the board for consideration.
And a little additional clarification, and I'm not suggesting by asking this question, please don't take it as I'm suggesting this is what will happen, but if we were to have discussions and we were unsuccessful in reaching some kind of an agreement, if we do not continue the public hearing, does that mean
that this entire matter has to go back before the Planning Commission once again, back through the noticing requirements, and then back to the Board of Supervisors eventually?
So if we are not, if we send it to staff and staff is unsuccessful in negotiating, that would come back to the board, and the board would then take action likely to cancel the development agreement. That would not need to go back to the Planning Commission.
The question is, do you have to continue the public hearing in order for that process?
If you want staff to come back, yes, you do have to continue.
Okay, I would suggest that the board select a date in August for us to return to the Board of Supervisors and that you continue this public hearing, which then just gives you the opportunity to make decisions without this having to go entirely back through the process.
Okay. Let's see.
And the direction of staff would be to, not to negotiate a payment plan, but to get full payment within this time period. Is that right? Is that where we are?
I think that's where we are.
I don't know.
I'm for a payment plan.
I'm just not going to end up being comfortable with that because, again, of how we've handled everyone else in curing their issue before we'll redo the development agreement. And not that we can't change directions, but I'm not comfortable because of what we've done and what we're continuing to do with development agreements. So I think we need to find a way to make the payment. I'd say that we've got the 13th of August. We keep the public hearing. That's probably the right day to bring it back, and so we can have that discussion.
So continue the public hearing to August 13th and direct staff to negotiate with the operator and return with how the negotiations went.
Return with a recommendation. I think you can do the, from what I'm hearing from the board, I believe the motion that is up on the board, if the board decides to remedy the noncompliance, staff recommends continuing the public hearing to a specific date, that'd be August 13th, and direct staff to negotiate with the operator and return with recommendations. I think that would get you where I'm hearing you want to go.
And I just want to clarify, we're going to continue to be consistent with the current policy that we have in place, that we will not bring forward any development amendments to the board unless they're in compliance.
I'm seeing consent. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, the market's giving you 30 more days to come up with $289,000, bottom line. Okay. And my son wants to speak out of turn. I think that's what we're...
Is that the motion?
That would be an appropriate motion. An appropriate motion would be to continue the public hearing to the 13th of August and direct staff to negotiate with the operator and return with recommendations at that date. That would be an appropriate motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, a motion by Supervisor Chiesa and a second by Supervisor Buck on it. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to discussion items. Item 2, approve and introduce approval to introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 2.52 of the Stanislaus County Code to transfer responsibility of the Director of Office of Emergency Services from Sheriff to the Fire Warden and reorganization of the Office of Emergency Services. Conducting this item will be Ruben Imperial from the Chief Executive Officer's office.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening, Chairman, Board of Supervisors, CEO Hayes, Council Bose. I'm here to present on the approval to introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 2.52 of the Stanislaus County Code to transfer responsibility of the Director of Emergency Services from the Sheriff to the Fire Warden and reorganization of the Office of Emergency Services. The Emergency Services Division, currently a division of the Sheriff's Office, includes the Office of Emergency Services, Fire Warden Services, Fire Prevention, and the Emergency Medical Services Agency. The main function and core function of the division is to operate as the operational area coordinator, responsibility for operationalizing and developing the standardized emergency management systems, the Emergency Operations Center, mutual aid coordination when needed, and responsible to ensure that we are complying with any mandates for funding related to response-related costs during a disaster. In addition, to make sure that we are complying with any of the Homeland Security and the NIMS as well. In 2020, this division was restructured. The Board of Supervisors approved the transfer of this division and these services from the CEO's office to a newly established division within the Sheriff's Office. At that time, in 2020, there were about 17 staff that were involved during that transfer, all allocated within our OES, Fire Warden, County Fire Service Fund, and Emergency Medical Services budgets. In addition to that, and subsequent to that action, there was also, the board took action to transfer the emergency services functions as well. The current model has served us well. However, in line with the Board of Supervisors' interest in establishing an organizational structure that better recognizes their oversight and authority over the county fire warden and emergency services, and the CEO's office is recommending to establish a standalone county department that would be known as the Office of Emergency Services. It would include the main core functions. Currently, there is court security that is embedded within this office, but that would not be transferred. The four major functions would be the Office of Emergency Services, the Fire Warden, Fire Prevention, and Emergency Medical Services Agency. Different from the past reorganization where the division was within or under the direct supervision of the Chief Executive Office. This is not that function. This would be a new department led by a director operating within the county's department level organizational structure and accountable to the Board of Supervisors. The Fire Warden would be the director of this new Office of Emergency Services. To facilitate this transition, we would work on transferring the current budget that is currently at $9.9 million. There will be a final analysis of staffing that will determine which staff will determine in a new department and the actual budget amount transferred. We will comply with all of our labor agreements. We are recommending that all of the staffing and budget and technical administrative actions to execute this transfer would be completed in line with the 2025 adopted budget. One of the first steps to facilitate this process is to designate the Fire Warden as the Director of Emergency Services. That requires an ordinance change. The current designation is for the Sheriff, and that action was taken by the Board of Supervisors on December the 15th in 2020. An update to the ordinance 2.52, Disaster Council and Emergency Service, which assigns and defines the Director of Emergency Services role, is recommended to implement the transfer of OES and to designate the Fire Warden as the Director of Emergency Services. At this time, the fiscal impact regarding the ordinance, there is no fiscal impact for the change in ordinance. As far as the transfer of direct allocated staff positions and budget line items from the existing cost centers, we anticipate that that'll be cost neutral or immaterial. And we will, as part of this transition process, we'll work with the Sheriff's Department. If the board makes this decision this evening, we will work with the Sheriff's Department over the next several weeks to facilitate this transition. So the recommendation here today is to introduce, waive the first reading, and order placement of the July 23rd, 2024 agenda for adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 2.52 of the Stanislaus County Code to transfer responsibility of the Director of Emergency Services from the Sheriff to the Fire Warden. The second recommendation is to approve the creation of the Office of Emergency Services. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions along with Joshua Woolworth, a management consultant, and our interim fire warden is here to answer any technical questions related to the division and the services it provides. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Any members of the board with any questions?
Something I should have asked ahead of time, but the additional between 20 and today, we've added, 5 positions. Can someone tell me what those positions are? I walked through there and I talked to people, but I don't know how we expanded the fire warden's office, and I don't mean to ever put anyone on. That's going to be an Eric question. Here comes Eric.
Yeah, maybe Eric can answer that one more quickly. We do have our spreadsheet here, but yeah, sorry. Yeah, we can get that info for you right now.
I'm sorry. I should have asked you this before.
I've been back there waiting.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Eric Klubmeyer, I'm fire warden. Chairman Graywell, members of the board, CEO Hayes, and the illustrious County Council Bose. To your question, Supervisor Chiesa, those 5 positions were for the EMS agency. So all 5 of those are for the EMS agency.
Okay.
That's the only thing we've added since 2020.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions by members of the board? If not, I'm going to take it out to the public. Members of the public have any questions with this?
I want to acknowledge our public comment that we received
correspondence. We did get a correspondence, so I'm going to acknowledge for the record. Mr. Ron Lopez sent an email to the entire board, so we can keep that for the record. All right, no other public comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board for a possible motion.
So, well, one, I'm going to be for this. I think it's the right time to do it. We have an interim fire warden at this time after the last warden retired. So I think it's a perfect time to create our new department. With EMS, fire, the increase of emergency declaration, so to speak, I think it's a great time for this division, this department, to take hold. So I'll be supporting this.
And so I would agree with Supervisor Condit's comments. Change, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. This is one of those situations where we think this is actually going to elevate the fire warden's office. And I'm going to be supportive of this. Standalone department head, I am hoping the transition works out just fine. I have complete confidence in all our department heads. I have complete confidence in Eric Klubmeyer as our interim director to do the job. And we just all continue to work together and make Stanislaus County a better place. I think this is going to be a strong move.
All right.
Motion to approve.
Possible motion.
Second.
Third. All right. I got motion by Supervisor Buck Condit and second by Supervisor Chance Condit. All please indicate by saying aye if they agree with the motion. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. It's a little bounce in your step, Klubmeyer.
That's because I got to talk.
All right, well, with that, finalizing any correspondence, please apologize. Acknowledge receipt of correspondence or refer as recommended on the agenda. Next is Board of Supervisors reports.
We probably have 20 because I think it's been 3 or 4 weeks since we've had a meeting, but I've forgotten everything. So.
I'm just going to do a quick one just because I came back from National Associations of Counties. I was in Tampa, Florida from Friday and just got back late last night on the National Association of Counties. Obviously, while there was some nationwide incidents that needed to be tended to, but it was a great learning opportunity. We have a new president of NACO who happens to be a California supervisor from Sonoma County, James Gore. So there was a lot of festivities for having a California representative at the national level. I had the honor and privilege that Supervisor Gore appointed me as vice chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. I was able to partake in many discussions. Childcare was one of the discussions, which I know our county has spent a lot of time and effort and resources through our 2030 project with how to strengthen childcare services, so it's an economic development and something that's feasible for people to work so that their children are taken care of and create more jobs in the county. That did not go, that is not only happening here at Stanislaus County, but I can tell you, being a national, at NACO, which is short for National Association of Counties, that's a topic of discussion. It was a robust discussion on that, economic development, workforce development. Those were some of the sessions that I went into. And so, and then the fun part was I got to meet with the chief lobbyist for Chick-fil-A, and I advocated to have a first Chick-fil-A in Stanislaus County. And they weren't against it. They weren't against it, so small steps. But it was a great trip, and I appreciate my colleagues entrusting me to represent the board at NACO. And next year, it's July 11th through July 14th, and it's Pennsylvania. And it would be nice if our entire board and our CEO team can go and represent Stanislaus County.
How about Josh Pedroso?
Oh, Josh Pedroso, Merced County Supervisor. He got appointed as chair of the Agriculture Committee. Which was another great thing. We got acknowledged many times as the breadbasket of the world. That's how we were introduced when James Gore brought up his speech about the area he represents. He brought, obviously, Sonoma County and known as wine country, but he specifically brought out that Stanislaus, San Joaquin, and Merced County is the breadbasket of the world, and it was very appropriate to have someone chair the Agriculture Committee, which is from this Central Valley region. So congratulations to Supervisor Pedroso. All right, with that, that's my report.
Chair, just before, for my little report, I just want to recognize Patty and the great job she did with the translation services. She did a great job under some difficult circumstances.
Good job, Pat.
Yeah, no, that was nice. He's filling in. Appreciate it. All right, if there's no other Board of Supervisors report, then, well, also, we all got, first time in a long time, all 5 of us were at the 4th of July parade together. It was great. All 5 of us were there, and so that's always a good thing when we're in the community out there together, and yeah, so I appreciate that as well. But next is Legislative Fiscal and Management Report by CEO Hayes.
Okay, I will be brief, given our hour. I do want to follow up with you regarding my prior reports on the status of the California state budget. By now, you've seen all of the headlines that there was a budget deal reached between the legislature and the governor, which has since been signed by the governor and enacted. And I just want to comment on overall theme was that the status and the impacts to local government, particularly counties, was significantly improved from where we were at with the governor's May revised budget. So the legislature, and through a lot of advocacy from county representatives, did step in to further support and reduce the impacts to counties, but more importantly, to reduce the impacts to the residents that we serve through all of those many, many programs. Just a couple that I want to mention is that there was a significant improvement to the impacts to our public health department. I do want to recognize, though, that there will likely still be some programs reduced there. However, those reductions will be much less than originally anticipated and will not result in any kind of meaningful impact that you may see in the community as what we originally were seeing with that May revise. Also want to acknowledge that many of our social service programs had the potential for significant hits across the state, and we've seen restoration of many of those hits. There are a couple of impacts that you'll see included in our adopted budget that comes back before the board in September. Notably, there will be some impacts to child support with a reduction of state and federal funds. They continue to struggle with the budget environment. It's been a long, many-year theme for them, and once again, there are some slight reductions. They will achieve those by likely holding positions vacant, which just means less staff serving the public, although we do not expect any significant or any reductions in force per se. Also want to acknowledge one of the significant topics of discussion were impacts to victim services that are provided through our district attorney's office. You've heard several presentations on that topic over this last year, so you're familiar with the good work that occurs at the DA's office. The state did step in to backfill once again, one time, some of the loss that was from federal grants. So these are federal grants that have gone away, and the state's been backfilling these federal grants. Although we do recognize this may just be a one-time backfill, and so I know our district attorneys definitely working strategically to find a way to preserve services as much as possible, also recognizing that there is that the long-term sustainability of those programs will likely not have these funding sources in the future. But once again, on the short term, positive note there. Also, small impact to our probation department. They did have a sizable impact potentially on the table related to some of their non-general fund department services, but it's been significantly diminished to the point where they can cover it with some of their savings that they've had at the department. They've been a good job saving through the years, and this is why you save funds through the years or for moments like this. So probation will lean on their savings to cover some of those things. A little bit of good news, June receipts from the state of California were up much more than expected, so that's good. That'll help at least provide some tailwind into the new fiscal year to support the state reserves, and that takes off a little bit of pressure, and hopefully that trend continues. And then the last thing I'll say is that we continue to partner with the California State Association of Counties in our advocacy for legislative issues. Legislature does return from recess on Monday, August 5th, so they'll be back at it. And I think at that point, we'll go through about a month and a half, a flurry of activity for final bills that would be considered in the legislative session. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right. With that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much to members of the